The pattern of this world is strong in the East and weak in the West. Chinese culture dominates the world. The whole world is learning Huaxia dialect. The China Golden Bull Awards have become the most influential film award in the world. Singers all over the world have set their lifelong goal of reaching the ranking list of Chinese music. The most fashionable fashion week, the strongest sports culture, the most beautiful scenery, and the best food are all here. In his previous life, Guan Chen ran to death on a path of no return. Here, he plans to take a long vacation for himself. Welcome everyone to join the group for communication. 579483758 Keywords of the novel. Actors do not have holidays or pop-ups. Actors do not have holidays. Download the complete set of TXT, Actors do not have holidays. Read the latest chapters. Chapter 1. I am a good citizen. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. I am a good citizen. The Chinese Dream Team showcased the spirit of the Chinese national football team and won the World Cup championship again. England national team goalkeeper confirmed to advance to the Chinese League One. The 103rd Huaxia High School Football National Competition will open at the Magic City 100000 People Stadium yesterday. An unexpected brawl occurred in the Beijing Under-14 League, with 5 people injured. The Chinese Football Association stated that they will not tolerate it. Looking at the outdated Sports Daily in his hand, Guan Chen frowned and sighed. I'm really living in a dream. At first, when Guan Chen first arrived in this world, he didn't really believe in the matter of time travel. He always held a glimmer of luck in his heart, thinking that either someone was setting up a bureau to manipulate him and try to obtain some intelligence, either something is wrong with one's own brain, and everything in front of them is just imagination. It wasn't until he saw information about Chinese football more than once that he finally confirmed the fact of time travel. Because if this is a part of human planning, then the flaws may be too obvious. Even if one's own brain were to lose its nerve, it would not dare to imagine such absurdity. The clothing of the crowds, the buildings with distinct Chinese characteristics on the roadside, and the foreigners speaking fluent Chinese on the street all prove that this is indeed a world different from the original Earth. Guan Chen has been observing this world for 3 days. My mood went from confusion to strangeness, and then to emotion, feeling that even if I were given another 3 years, I wouldn't be able to compare the differences between this world and the world I lived in my previous life. There are too many differences. But for 3 to 5 years or so, Guan Chen is not yet concerned. The most important issue at the moment is to solve the problem of food. There is nothing difficult in the world, but one is afraid of hunger. Guan Chen felt a few coins in his pocket, and then looked at the convenience store behind him. He could not help sighing and cursing. It's really his mother, poor guy. I am not cursing myself, but rather the previous user of my own body. His predecessor didn't leave much money, so he had to come out and make money on his own. It's okay to make money. In his previous life, Guan Chen was the best at making friends with people and also the best at borrowing money from friends. However, his predecessor left neither a mobile phone nor any interpersonal relationships, only his impoverished and useless body. Even if it were a shell, it was lifted up because his body was weak and unable to provide any protective effect. Guan Chen dragged such a body that couldn't run fast or endure fighting, and his ability to make money was sealed off. He, who cannot do anything wrong, has tried to be wise. For example, when he touched porcelain, someone saw him walking unsteadily with a withered body. They came up early to care for him and asked him if it was important or if he wanted to go to the hospital. He also thought about robbing someone else to take delivery, but the foreign guy who delivered the food was too dedicated and refused to leave without delivering the food to the buyer, so there was no pressure to urge payment. Guan Chen had no choice but to transform into a salesperson and become a seller. Half an hour left, the convenience store clerk shouted out. At some point, several people had already stood by Guan Chen's side. They looked at the convenience store calmly and didn't go in, just waiting there. Upon hearing the salesperson's reminder, they began to consciously queue up one by one. Some of them are nearby residents, some are scavengers, and even a few foreigners. Guan Chen realized that it was almost 11 o'clock in the evening. After 11 o'clock, convenience stores will sell some items that have passed their best consumption period at a discount. This is the intelligence that Guan Chen saw many people queuing up at the convenience store entrance yesterday to gather information. Goo. Guan Chen felt his stomach deflate and feel hungry as if his stomach was burning. You can't sit anymore. He, who only ate 2 steamed buns today, needs to quickly sell his belongings for money and then come to queue up. If you're late, you won't be able to buy good things. Guan Chen stood up and folded the old newspaper, then casually threw it into a large black plastic bag next to him. In the plastic bag, besides a few newspapers and magazines that were picked up, there were also several books brought out from home. These books are the most valuable assets left to him by his predecessor. Given that this body is too weak, some sales tactics are not easy to implement. Normal sales tactics are not understood by Guan Chen, so the performance is not optimistic and he hasn't sold a single book all day. I don't know if it's the books he sells that have problems, or if the people here have problems. Carrying a plastic bag, Guan Chen, who was only moving within a 200-meter radius of the convenience store, walked and finally found his target. The other party is only one person, with a harmless physique and no threat. Guan Chen stood in front of the other party, took out a book, and said, "This book, Shadow Play Encounters Animation, has been published for 5 years, but look at its appearance, it looks 85% new. The original price is 117 yuan, it's in a second-hand bookstore, and some people buy it in their 70s or 80s. Hey, don't hurry. Do you think I'm here to sell books? Wrong, I'm here to make friends today." Guan Chen pointed to the convenience store in the distance and said, "Please treat me to a box of bento, and I'll give you this book. Just make friends." The friend, standing opposite Guan Chen, who was only 7 or 8 years old, had innocent eyes full of confusion. He, who lives in socialism and is the successor of socialism, has never heard such social words in his 7 or 8 years of life, and suddenly doesn't know what to do. "My mother is waiting for me in front." The little boy waited for an opportunity to escape. But as soon as I stepped out, my shoulder was tightly held down by a thin and large hand. "Don't like cartoons. It's okay." Guan Chen withdrew his hand and took out 2 more books from the black plastic bag on the ground. "So how about this one? Poetic Body, and Teaching Pei Sanjuan's Body Structure Painting. The covers of these 2 books feature a man and a woman, freely stretching their bodies with minimal clothing and fabric. It doesn't look like a proper book." The child stared at the cover, feeling a crack in the door of a new world. Guan Chen continued to promote, "Don't look at the cover like this, but the content inside is actually very artistic. If you want to understand the human body well." The child let out a strange cry and immediately wanted to run. "Want to run?" Guan Chen's eyes widened, already alert. As if facing such a situation thousands of times, he took a big step forward, seized the opportunity, and reached out his hand to stop the prey. However, the child was very agile and was about to be caught in the next second. Suddenly, the child made a feint and slipped away from Guan Chen's hand. If it were Guan Chen's original skills, the current situation would not be a problem at all. But the problem is, this body is not Guan Chen's right now. My grass. Before Guan Chen fell, the person he most wanted to curse was not the child, not the ground, not himself, but still the previous user of his own body. When Guan Chen sat up, the child had already run so far that his shadow could not be seen. "Dead otaku, it's okay if you don't leave me some money. Give me such a garbage body, I can't even handle a child now." Guan Chen pounded his disheartened legs, finally causing himself to grin in pain. After a pause, Guan Chen began to summarize his experience like a lion. "Living in the wild, every penny of heat is precious, and getting injured is not worth the loss. So, he believes that next time looking for sales books, it is necessary to find some old ladies and grandfathers who are not very agile. Guan Chen stood up, grabbed the plastic bag containing the book, took a few steps, and found that his ankle was slightly painful, probably because he accidentally twisted it just now. Guan Chen carefully felt that the injury was not serious, but it did not prevent him from cursing his predecessor once again, leaving him with such a garbage body. The patrol police car slowly passed by, and Guan Chen, who was resting on the roadside steps, felt a sudden jump in his heart, but soon relaxed again. I am a good citizen and a good citizen. Guan Chen hypnotized himself. The police car dripped by, and indeed no one came down to catch him. Guan Chen is happy now. Suddenly being thrown into a strange country in this lifetime, but it doesn't seem like it's all bad either. Although his predecessor gave him this garbage body, his identity is at least innocent. In his previous life, he did all the bad things and slept restlessly. Every time he saw flashing red and blue lights, he would put on full alert. Now watching the police car slowly pass by in front of him, Guan Chen felt an unprecedented sense of relaxation. Look around. Normal tactile paving with intact road surface, normal pedestrians with Han clothing characteristics, ordinary cars that can't recognize the logo, ordinary or traditional or simplified signboards, ordinary bus stop signs with unique and beautiful appearance. Guan Chen has a leisure time on vacation. If you could have some hot food, this holiday would be perfect. It seems that dinner is still steamed buns. Guan Chen didn't have a phone and couldn't see the time. But through the restless queue outside the convenience store, one can guess that the time is approaching 11 o'clock. He rubbed his stomach and was ready to queue up. Just then, a sudden sound came from behind. That's him. Guan Chen instinctively sensed that this, he, referred to himself. Therefore, without any hesitation, Guan Chen picked up the plastic bag head and ran forward without looking back. These three words are not unfamiliar to Guan Chen at all. In his 30 years of life experience in his previous life, whenever someone shouts out these three words, it usually means that a bloody storm will follow. As Guan Chen ran, he regretted the shattering of his dream of a good citizen. However, he hadn't taken 2 steps yet. His injured ankle was limping and tilting, and his muscles and bones almost shifted. The pain made him stumble and almost fall on his head. Guan Chen was speechless. The tranquil and peaceful evil tiger has never fallen to such a level. Seeing that he couldn't run anymore, Guan Chen simply stopped and applied his brakes with calmness, responded to changes with constancy, waited for fatigue with ease, and waited for death with ease. The people behind quickly ran up, 2 big and 1 small, totaling 3 people. The smaller one reached out his finger and pointed at Guan Chen. He was just trying to steal my money. Sina, it turned out to be the elementary school student who had just run away, and brought 2 adults back as support. Fortunately, Guan Chen breathed a sigh of relief in his heart, as long as it was not the enemy left behind by his predecessor. It's a misunderstanding. Guan Chen looked up and smiled at 2 adults with unpleasant expressions. I'm a good citizen, how could I possibly have the idea of using a little ghost wallet? The other person didn't speak, their eyes were like looking at a beast. Guan Chen noticed that one of the 2 adults across from him was actually carrying a camera and taking pictures of him. Why, are you still collecting evidence for my crime? Guan Chen sneered in his heart, but his hand slowly reached towards the plastic bag and said, I need to take something now. It's not something dangerous, so don't be nervous. Guan Chen slowly took out a book from his bag and showed the cover to the other person, saying, I was thinking that the future of domestic animation lies on the shoulders of these young people, so I think this book, Shadowplay Encounters Animation, is very suitable for this little ghost, so I recommended it to him. It's not just a forced sale. The person who didn't carry the camera shook his head and said with a focused tone, it's not a problem of forced buying and selling. The child said you wanted to sell him 2 books with red and naked covers just now. You're selling pornographic books to minors, which is illegal. Selling obscenity to minors. I'm really crazy, Guan Chen chuckled. Even me, there's a bottom line. He didn't want to explain any extra words and just wanted to show each other two books to read carefully. What do you want to do? Don't move. I have already called the police. Two adults thought that Guan Chen was going to kill a fish or break a net, so they immediately took the child back a few meters away and shouted loudly. People in this world seem to be more meddlesome. Guan Chen gathered his long hair that was obstructing his forehead and said to the child hidden behind the two adults, "The children on your side really live in a good era. When I was young, my dad knocked me out with a stick, and no one came to help me." After listening, the two adults fell silent and then retreated further. I probably thought I had encountered that kind of twisted psychology, retaliating against society, and only daring to violence the weak in society. At this moment, a police car patrolling nearby quickly appeared. Guan Chen carefully looked at the license plate of the police car and found that it was not the one that had just passed by. This indicates that the police force in the neighborhood is very sufficient and not lazy. Knowing people and discussing the world, this world is too unfriendly to bad people. Guan Chen was speechless in his heart. Although he didn't intend to commit a crime, seeing this instinctively made him feel troubled. Belongs to occupational diseases. Watching the red and blue lights gradually approaching, Guan Chen calmed down and took out the books, Poetic Body, and Teaching Pei Sanjuan's Body Structure Painting. He said to the two big and one small people in front of him. Take a closer look, these two books are not serious. I just hope that children can cultivate some artistic temperament, so I am selling them to them. Don't leave. If you falsely accused me just now and don't compensate me for my mental damages, I will go to court with you. Guan Chen, relying on his pure wealth in this life, loudly recited the words warned by others in the previous life. I'm really enjoying it. Ah. The other person carefully read the book and confirmed with the child. The other person carrying the camera was almost putting the lens into a plastic bag, wanting to confirm whether Guan Chen had changed hands and concealed evidence. The child said, "It is indeed these two books." The result proved Guan Chen's innocence. The two of them finally realized that there was an upset. After the police got off the car seriously, the two adults came forward to explain the misunderstanding. After asking the child, the police found no problem and decided to take the child home. Guan Chen was moved by the kindness of the police and wanted to borrow some money from them. But two adults blocked his way. I'm sorry. They apologized to Guan Chen. A misunderstanding, I know you two are also kind-hearted, Guan Chen comforted both and wanted to avoid it. The young one carrying the camera put it down with a hint of embarrassment and grabbed Guan Chen's hand. Guan Chen drew his hand but didn't pull it out. Another elderly man in his 30s, surnamed Zhou, was as calm as a social animal in his early 30s. However, he had a son in elementary school and a daughter about to be born, so he had to work hard to earn money. He skillfully shook out his cigarette and, with a hint of embarrassment, explained the cause and effect to Guan Chen. He said that when they were wandering on the road just now, they hurriedly ran over to see a child, thinking that something had happened. They approached to inquire, and as soon as they found out, they rushed over with a camera to expose the lawless fanatics. Being delayed by them, the police have already left. Guan Chen had no choice but to take the cigarette and not smoke. He pointed to the camera and asked, "What legal program do you have?" "No," said the 30-year-old director surnamed Zhou, shaking his head. "We do entertainment variety shows." "Oh, it's not a legal program," Guan Chen nodded clearly and laughed. The young cameraman also advertised his own program. Magic City Channel, airing on Friday at 12:30 a.m. Okay, it's getting late too. Guan Chen doesn't even have a TV in his place, so he doesn't care about any programs or not. It's getting late, I'm really sorry today. Zhou, the young cameraman, waved as if he was planning to leave. Are you leaving now? Zhou nodded and said, there is still some progress to be made. Don't, Guan Chen smiled as he played with his cigarette. The cool breeze blew, and his messy long hair spread out like a lion's mane. I can't even buy dinner today because of your delay. Are you patting your butt and wanting to leave now? Director Zhou and the young camera were both stunned. The air within a radius of 5 meters seemed to suddenly sink. 11 o'clock has passed, and convenience stores have entered a brief peak period, with shelves displaying discounted food being visibly emptied by people. The liveliness in the distance did not exceed the solemnity here. Zhou Dao held a puff of smoke in his mouth. In front of him, Guan Chen's body was frail and seemingly fragile, but Zhou Dao, who was 1.8 meters tall and strong, looked at Guan Chen's dark eyes and felt danger. Just as Director Zhou was pondering whether he wanted to call the patrol back again, Guan Chen suddenly regained his momentum, touched his chin, and changed his tone, saying, I know your workplace. If you refuse to compensate, I will go to your workplace and cause trouble. He felt that if he wanted to be a good person, he might be able to win by intelligence without leaving a record. Director Zhou glared at the casually transparent young photographer and turned to Guan Chen, saying, I'm sorry for delaying your dinner. Otherwise, what would you like to eat? I'll order takeout now. Don't be so troublesome. Guan Chen waved his hand and bent down to take out 3 books from a plastic bag. They are all 90% new, originally priced at 120%, and second-hand ones are all bought for 80% or 90%. I'll just lose some money and make friends. A book costs 70 yuan. Zhou Dao sighed and chose one of the 3 books, Poetic Body, intending to pay in cash. But the change in cash cannot make up 70, only 100. When I come out to cheat, I value integrity. When I say, kill, it means 70 is 70. Let's go to the convenience store now and change the money. Guan Chen looked at the unfamiliar pattern on the 100 yuan bill and was a bit worried that it was fake. At the convenience store, rice and vegetable roll and bento are almost sold. Guan Chen enthusiastically bought some snacks and sausages. After breaking through 100 yuan, he returned 30 yuan to Zhou Dao. Director Zhou, who had been flipping through Poetic Body since entering the convenience store, suddenly asked him, You used to be an actor. Guan Chen was taken aback and puzzled, How do you know? Director Zhou turned over Poetic Body and said, There is your performance experience written on it. Guan Chen looked at the book, with notes filling the edges of the song typeface printed text. There were clumps of handwritten reflections, and Guan Chen didn't know what was written. Some of them were sharp annotations, circled with black lines and made a shocking cross, with bold and arrogant brushstrokes. Can I go to your house tonight? Said Director Zhou. What? Guan Chen looked up, unsure when the camera had already been turned on by the young cameraman. At this moment, the camera is directly facing him. Our program is called, Can I Come to Your House Tonight? We would like to visit your house and have a look. Director Zhou took out a few 100 yuan bills and added, Also, I can buy a few more books. Note. Guan Chen's Chen is pronounced in the first tone. The program, Can I Go to Your Home Tonight, that appears in this article is based on a real-life variety show called, Can I Follow You to Your Home? End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Can I Go to Your House Tonight? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2 Can I Go to Your House Tonight? The content of the program, Can I Go to Your Home Tonight, is to randomly interview a passerby and then go to their home for filming. The place where a person resides is the most honest way to reflect their essence. Through this point, the production team attempts to present various types of residences and then deduce a person's essence in reverse. So far, it has aired 4 episodes, but the ratings are very low, and it is currently in a crisis of life and death. Director Zhou. Really looking for someone to play? The young cameraman asked the director, his tone full of hesitation whether to say it or not. Otherwise. Director Zhou blew out 2 puffs of smoke from his nose. The program is almost gone, so why bother with so much? Remember, We are just a variety show, not a documentary, not news. And it's just a transitional moment. Many programs have done this in the early stages. Although it's explained to young photographers, these words are not meant to be heard by oneself. There are countless troubles in the process of a program from idea to implementation, and even more so during the filming phase. There are various unpleasant experiences. When they go out to search for interviewees, few passers-by are willing to accept interviews. The other party either knows that their home is in a mess and can only show superficiality and sloppiness, so they refuse, either you think this program is quite suspicious and can't avoid it. Just thinking about it, not everyone's essence can be openly displayed on television. Some passers-by are even more disgusted by this, thinking that it is just a program produced to satisfy the audience's desire for privacy, and do not want to be pitifully surrounded by curiosity. The few passers-by who agreed to the interview ultimately obtained mediocre materials and results. The production team was greatly disappointed. Director Zhou believes that if given some more time, he will definitely be able to find someone worth taking a photo of. But the patience of the Taiwan leadership was limited, and an ultimatum was issued. If the ratings and topics continue to decline without improvement, the program will be cut off. After Zhou Dao was distressed, he could only come up with the last resort. Finding someone to play the role of a passerby. He, who is about to have a second child, bears enough responsibility and pressure to give way to any ideal. Can this Guan Chen work? Although he is an actor, he doesn't look very reliable, said the young camera. First, follow the usual script and read it. If it doesn't work out, let him perform according to the original script on stage. Director Zhou replied. There is a team in the circle that specializes in this field. Appearing as passers-by on variety shows. Those people may not necessarily have very good acting skills, at most when facing the camera, they can speak completely according to the script without making too many mistakes. Director Zhou believes that Guan Chen's level should be above those people, and if he were to act as a passerby, he might have underestimated his abilities. Ordinary people suddenly stand in front of the camera, either excited and at a loss, or shy and uneasy. The camera is like a magnifying glass, magnifying the flaws of the person in front of the lens. All unnatural behaviors will attract attention. And Guan Chen stood in front of the camera, like a very dense stone, pressing into the frame, all the magnetic field concentrated on him. It is both restrained and unrestrained, harmless and dangerous, simple and complex, giving people a feeling of contradiction in complexity. There is no need for such a person to appear in the picture, even if you only take a glance, you will know that this person is bound to have a story on them. In addition to Guan Chen's impressive appearance, Director Zhou determined that as long as Guan Chen was still on the path of acting, it would be sooner or later for him to make a name for himself. Hiring Guan Chen to play the role of a passerby before he becomes famous is definitely profitable. Even if he were interviewed as an ordinary person, it would be enough for Director Zhou, as the director of Can I Go to Your Home Tonight, to have an interest in exploring it. At this moment, they are standing in an area far away from subway stations and modern civilization. A gloomy architectural complex, dim streetlights, the garbage bin does not have a classification mark, the tactile paving is dilapidated, stay away from subway stations and bus stops. There is no one around. Zhou Dao is from the old Magic City and knows that this area is a gathering place for black households. There are foreigners who stay in China through various means to pursue the Chinese dream. I didn't expect Guan Chen to live here. The light switch in the hallway is a bit difficult to find. Can someone borrow my phone to take a look? Guan Chen's voice rang out from the entrance of the pitch-black corridor ahead, and then he walked over alone in a daze. Director Zhou asked Guan Chen, who had been back and forth, "Where's your phone?" Guan Chen replied, "It really fell off, otherwise I had you transfer the money to me just now." "What transfer?" Zhou Dao took out his phone from his pocket strangely and turned on the flashlight detection function. The lights illuminated the front and also illuminated Guan Chen as he spoke. Guan Chen's clothes were very thin, only wearing a gray sportswear, and his shoulders were trembling with fear. Most likely due to the fact that one rarely goes out, it is not possible to determine the exact thickness of clothing to wear at night. A head of long and messy hair fluttered like a lion's mane in the autumn wind, but unfortunately, the whole person was thin and weak, like a pitiful creature driven out by a pack of lions for idleness. How much did it cost to buy this phone? Guan Chen was very interested as it was his first time touching a phone in this world. After taking the phone, he flipped it back and forth, his fingers swiped back and forth on the screen, and started his own review. Domestic brands are smoother than apples. The lens only has one eye, is this pixel really good or not? Ah. Director Zhou didn't know what Guan Chen was muttering. But seeing the other person openly opening their photo album and attempting to pry into the privacy on their phone, they immediately stopped and said, "Didn't you use a flashlight to find the switch?" Guan Chen put down his phone with a lingering desire, leaving behind a threatening sentence like, "You wait for me." He then took his phone and walked back into a gloomy and terrifying house ahead, following the path. Zhou Dao was a bit worried that Guan Chen would secretly check the privacy of his phone again, and even more worried that the other person would run away with the phone, so he extinguished the cigarette in his hand and followed closely behind him. The young camera also hurriedly carried the machine and followed behind. 3 people entered the hallway, and Guan Chen honestly searched for the switch with his phone. After searching for a while, he finally found it. Click. Press. The light is not on. Zhou Dao and Guan Chen looked at each other in the darkness. "Isn't this your home?" Director Zhou was somewhat puzzled. Guan Chen smiled slightly and said, "It's normal, because I'm an otaku." As he spoke, he turned around and walked upstairs. "I haven't been out much since I moved in, and I rarely come home so late. After a while I've forgotten the hallway switch and I don't know if the light is broken." Director Zhou acknowledged this reason. After all, Guan Chen's thin attire proves that he rarely goes out at night, otherwise there would be no temperature difference between day and night. Most people don't know how to bring an extra piece of clothing. Director Zhou used a young camera phone as a searchlight and followed upstairs. The building extensively uses wooden materials, and stepping on the old hallway is scary. The stairs and corridors are filled with miscellaneous items placed by residents, ranging from elderly wheelchairs to children's toy cars. The surrounding walls are very thin, and the sighs of the people inside can be heard through the door. Listen carefully, there are only some foreign languages. Walking to the 3rd floor, Guan Chen stopped. He extended his index finger and counted the doors from left to right, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's this one. Then he walked over and opened the door with the key. Director Zhou hesitated again and said, I am an otaku with poor eyesight, so I use counting to remember the location of my doorstep." Guan Chen's voice was full of the strong sense of being an otaku. Zhou nodded and swallowed his doubts again. "But I'm actually a bit unhappy in my heart. He is here to shoot actors full of conflicting temperament and mysterious colors, not to shoot any otaku. I don't know how many of the otaku's houses he took pictures of last month, but there's really nothing new. The profession of an actor is destined to be associated with dreams, and in the process of pursuing dreams, there will inevitably be obstacles, which are valuable materials for media professionals. If it's a failed actor, then the story is more." Guan Chen took out the key and was unlocking it. Director Zhou had a vague premonition that if Guan Chen tried several keys in a row but couldn't open the door, he might have used the excuse that he was an otaku and hadn't gone out for a long time, making it reasonable not to recognize his own doorstep. Fortunately, Guan Chen suddenly opened the door, and the situation where Zhou Dao's intelligence was insulted in his fantasy did not occur. If that situation really happens, Director Zhou really needs to prepare to go back. Director Zhou, who breathed a sigh of relief, had the camera set up and ready to enter. "I'm sorry, at first glance, it may look a bit messy," Guan Chen reminded him on the side. "It's okay, it's okay. Director Zhou didn't take it to heart because almost all the respondents, whether their homes were really messy or not, would say that. Director Zhou is a trained person, and even if it's really chaotic inside, he won't react impolitely. I have never seen a house where single young people live alone. Even if it's messy, where can it go? Click. Guan Chen turned on the lights in the room. The light is a bit dim, but at least it can make people see things. Zhou Dao looked around and immediately took 2 steps back. What appeared before him was a mess, almost like products of an explosion. The wardrobe was wide open, the boxes were overturned, and various things scattered all over the ground. The whole room was in a mess, as if it had just been repeatedly ravaged by thieves and robbers. Hurry up and report to the police. Director Zhou grabbed Guan Chen's hand and said, "Your house has been robbed." Guan Chen stopped the cameraman from reporting to the police and explained with a smile, "This is how it used to be here, there was no thief." "Is that how it was originally?" Director Zhou looked at Guan Chen in disbelief and slowly spat out, "Is it difficult, because you are?" "Yes, just because I am." Guan Chen slowly straightened his chest. Otaku. Otaku. The sound in reality overlaps with the sound in the heart. Zhou Dao closed his eyes with deep pain. Should I leave? There's still time to leave now. He began to doubt whether finding Guan Chen as a temporary actor or interviewer was the right decision. As Guan Chen kicked away the garbage blocking the road and walked in, he boasted shamelessly, "The rooms of the solitary otaku are all very messy. This is pretty good, at least there are no cockroaches or mice." Zhou Dao stood at the entrance, looking at the messy, crime scene, and roast in his heart. Sitting in this garbage dump, I'm afraid I'm not going to be assimilated by the garbage. Guan Chen is very polite. He is pulling out 2 unopened cans of beer from the various cans, intending to use it to entertain the 2 members of the program team. The only drink here is beer. No need, no need. Director Zhou and the young camera waved their hands repeatedly. On the one hand, work without drinking alcohol, drinking without work. On the other hand, it is the instinct of animals to seek benefits and avoid harm, feeling that in such an environment, any drink or food they bring out will appear suspicious. Seeing that the 2 of them didn't drink, Guan Chen put the beer back on the ground. "You can drink it, don't care about us, it's okay." Zhou asked Guan Chen to be more casual. Drinking some alcohol may be a good thing for respondents, as it allows them to express their inner thoughts more freely. Guan Chen still didn't plan to drink it, saying, "Beer can provide calories and can be consumed during times of famine." Zhou Dao was speechless. Guan Chen clattered on the garbage bag and sat down at the low table in the center of the room. He took out the sausages and buns he had bought from the convenience store and happily prepared to eat them. Before eating, he even asked, "Are you waiting for me to finish or are you taking pictures now?" "You can eat first, let's take some random photos first." Director Zhou replied. It was said to be taken casually, but Director Zhou looked at the messy room and felt frustrated not knowing how to shoot the program. The young camera next to him didn't have this distress, just filmed Guan Chen. Due to Guan Chen's natural and unparalleled sense of camera, coupled with the fact that he was only able to buy ordinary, common people's food everywhere, he felt an unparalleled sense of happiness eating it. As the young photographer filmed it, he almost had the idea that, if the program was cut off, it would not be wrong to change it to a food program. "Let's go first," Director Zhou patted the shoulder of the photo shoot. The room where Guan Chen lives is about 20 square meters, with very little furniture and unclear purposes. There are screwdrivers and bowls and chopsticks in the wardrobe, clothes are stacked on a low table, piles of paper and pens are placed on the bed, and blankets are piled far on the ground. Black garbage bags and white takeout bags bloom everywhere like potted plants. Beer cans stand up and down in any place where you can rest, adorned with a few sneaky pills. Idle, decadent, and decadent. Zhou Dao sighed and felt that he had made a mistake in his judgment. No matter how talented an actor is, he is so rotten inside that he can never go far or high. Thinking about Guan Chen's forced behavior of selling books to make a living, I used to guess that he was experiencing life and getting closer to his character. Now it seems that he has really thought too much, but is just desperate and becoming a seller. Selling books is like selling oneself. Guan Chen asked, "Are you sure it's just a few simple questions, and then you buy my book? The whole thing's over, right?" Zhou Dao responded and said, "Yes." When he was at the convenience store, he used buying books as a lure and planned to interview Guan Chen. However, he is now unsure whether buying books is helping or accelerating Guan Chen's decline. Zhou Dao lowered his head and flowed through the garbage dump at a speed of 5 centimeters per second. He quickly came up with an idea. If there were not many books left for Guan Chen, he would buy them all and send them to Guan Chen, so that he could read them in his free time and pick himself up again. So he asked Guan Chen, "How many books do you still have here? How many more books are there?" Guan Chen turned his head and looked around. "Probably a few thousand books." He has no concept of the number of books at all, he just thinks there are many, many, so many that he feels dizzy at a glance. How many books? Zhou Dao sadly believed that Guan Chen was likely to have a psychological illness. Zhou Dao paid attention to his feet all the way, and when he arrived near Guan Chen, he looked up and looked at everything in the room. Then he saw the belongings that Guan Chen had exchanged for food. Books. Nearly 2,000 books. 2 wall-sized bookcases stand at right angles, filled with various books. Vertical and horizontal, with books stacked on top of each other, the entire bookshelf shows no gaps. I can't put it down anymore, so I put it in a corner at a right angle and stack it into potted plants of thought. In the dim, narrow, and chaotic room, these 2 wall books rush towards each other, emitting an astonishing light. Bathed in the radiance of knowledge, even Guan Chen's act of burying his head and gnawing on steamed buns seemed so unfathomable. These 2,000 books are worth at least 100,000 yuan, even second-hand books are worth tens of thousands. Why did Guan Chen fall into a situation where he had no money and couldn't afford a bento when he had so many books to buy? Why does Guan Chen, who owns 2,000 books, live in this gathering area full of foreign black households? How long did you stay? Is it related to childhood domestic violence that we are like today? Or what major setbacks did you encounter halfway through life? What kind of life has he had so far, despite being an actor but claiming to be an otaku? Zhou was caught off guard and felt like his chest had opened a hole, his heart pounding out of it. This feeling was very unfamiliar to him, as if only by delving into Guan Chen's story could the emptiness in his heart be completely filled. I hope to reach a consensus with everyone that the views of characters in fictional works may not necessarily be the author's own. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Interviews. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3 Interviews. You have money to buy so many books, why don't you have money to buy food? Zhou Dao asked Guan Chen while browsing through the dazzling books. Guan Chen was also curious about this question. Where the hell did all the money go? Then, while rummaging through boxes and cabinets looking for change, he found the answer. I used to brainstorm and spend all my money on buying books and alcohol. Guan Chen grabbed a few invoices from the ground with a resentful expression on his face. The most frequently purchased ones were alcohol, cigarettes, and books. The latest invoice is from last week. On the back of the invoice, there is a line written. We have all been shaped by those who love us time and time again. As long as they persist a little, we will become their work. Guan Chen couldn't bear to see such incomprehensible words and quickly crumpled the invoice into a ball and threw it away. He turned to Director Zhou and said, You can pick any of these books and they will all be discounted by 50%. The bookshelf was filled with a plethora of books, including social sciences, literature, economics, art, philosophy, history, political science, photography. Guan Chen had never read a single book, and he was too lazy to read it. In his eyes, these books are simply hypnotic drugs ready to go. It's better to twist his head off than to let him read honestly. Have you read all these books? Zhou randomly took out the books and found that each one he received had notes of reading. If you've read it all, there's nothing, Guan Chen replied vaguely as he devoured the buns. Zhou Dao saw several unopened new books and thought that Guan Chen had rigorously stated that the new books had not been read yet. That's also very impressive. Guan Chen smiled calmly. Among so many books, which one do you like the most? Director Zhou asked. My favorite book is always the next one. That's great. Director Zhou exclaimed, you have too many books here. I don't know which one to buy. How about you recommend one for me? Unconsciously, Guan Chen looked up and searched for the thickest and most expensive book in the bookshelf. The thickest book, it's up to you, I recommend this book of the criminal law, Guan Chen said seriously. Director Zhou was deeply surprised and said, why? Guan Chen can't say that because the thicker the book, the more expensive it is. Upon careful consideration, he realized that the criminal law may indeed be the most familiar one among his many books. In his past life, Guan Chen's boss always asked these little brothers to read more books, and the criminal law, as an employment guidance textbook, needed to be read more. Although Guan Chen feels drowsy when he reads a book, he has a strong career ambition. Every day before going to bed, he holds on to a few lines to read, and the effect is always good. He often falls asleep in a few minutes. Over time, although he doesn't remember much content, he can only do some work of fighting, killing, and transporting goods, but in the end, he also falls asleep with emotions. Seeing the criminal law now makes me feel even more familiar. In my previous life, I used it as a career guidance textbook. In this life, since I want to be a good citizen, this book has become a guide in another direction. Faced with Director Zhou's inquiries and camera shots, Guan Chen suddenly fell into a deep state. After thinking for a moment, he said, I really like the law because I believe it is the best thing that humans have ever invented. Do you know what humans are? In my eyes, humans are the sum of divinity and animality, they have both good and evil that you can't imagine. There is no right or wrong, and that's human. So the law is particularly cute. No matter how good you can be, it restricts you from being so evil. It knows that everyone has something dirty in their hearts. It can think about it, but it can't be done. The law is more like the basic protection of human nature, which is a mandatory cultivation. It is not like religion that requires you to have high vision and low skills, so it tells you at least what kind of person it should be. It's both about human relationships and cruelty. Note, Director Zhou was full of admiration and said, you said it so well. It's really good, Guan Chen smiled. Looking back on the few seconds just now, I have a wonderful feeling. He had just flashed a corresponding movie clip in his mind, and when he came to his senses, he fluently memorized a long section of lines. Guan Chen was not particularly surprised by this. He started mixing with society in middle school, recognized characters, received little education, and lacked guidance from teachers and parents. Everything he learned came from two different places. One is society, and the other is movies. He won't feel bored watching a favorite movie over and over again. Those lines that would make him drowsy if written on paper, but as long as spoken through dialogue, he can firmly remember them. The only thing that Guan Chen felt a bit strange was that while he was memorizing his lines just now, his mind sank into another place, which was a bit strange. Where did you graduate? Director Zhou interrupted Guan Chen's contemplation. The interview had already begun unconsciously. Guan Chen regained his senses and thought for a moment that his predecessor seemed to be a university of some kind. Unable to remember, he simply got up and walked to the wardrobe, leaned in half and pulled around for a while, then found a graduation photo. It says, Yunnan University, and Department of Chinese Language and Literature. Guan Chen recited, Yunnan University. The young camera couldn't help but exclaim softly, "Yunman." Guan Chen calmly scrutinized the expression of the young camera. In Guan Chen's speculation, if his predecessor had done so badly, the university was likely some kind of fake university. However, as I listened to the young camera's tone, I couldn't conceal my surprise and realized that the truth was likely to be the opposite. He carefully looked at the graduation photo and found a few small words printed in hot gold in the corner of the photo. "The clouds are rotten, and the sky is full. The sun and moon are shining brightly, and on the day of Fudan, the day is coming. Song of the clouds, oh, why are these two words so familiar? Dan Fu. Dan Shi. Fu. Dan. Isn't this his mother Fudan University, an alien version?" As one of the top 10 universities in China, Fudan University in his past life is somewhat well known to Guan Chen. With the strong and weak urine characteristics of this world, it is likely that with blessing, the school's name will become even louder. To pretend to be a prestigious college student. Guan Chen felt a bit guilty. Yunman University, that's no wonder. Zhou Dao nodded suddenly, as if he felt that the legal remarks just now were quite normal for a graduate of a prestigious university's literature department. "When did you start wanting to be an actor?" Director Zhou asked. "Let's graduate soon," Guan Chen actually didn't know. If it weren't for Zhou Dao discovering his insights from Poetic Body, he wouldn't have known that his predecessor was originally an actor or had been an actor. "Does the family support it?" Guan Chen smiled meaningfully, leaving plenty of blank space. In fact, he doesn't even know if his predecessor's family is still around, and if so, how many. Because there is no predecessor phone, it is also impossible to determine from the contact list. Director Zhou could tell that Guan Chen was a passive type of interviewee who answered every question and hardly took the initiative to extend the story. Therefore, after waiting for a while and realizing that Guan Chen was no longer speaking, he could only continue to ask. "Are you still performing now?" "Probably not anymore." "So," Zhou Dao looked regretful, "what about other jobs? Is there anything else you want to do?" "I don't have a job," Guan Chen answered calmly, with no sense of inferiority or disappointment on his face. "I'm selling books now to exchange for some money. I haven't thought about what I'll do in the future yet." The last sentence, Guan Chen is serious. In this world, with a brand new identity in a brand new living space, he felt for the first time that the future, even if planned, does not necessarily have to be completed. Just thinking about it can still give people a force. "Isn't it a pity?" Director Zhou asked. Guan Chen could tell that this sentence was not a pity. It meant that he finally got into Yunman and gave up his major to become an actor. In the end, he didn't consider himself an actor, which was equivalent to wasting several years of hard work. Whether it's the effort in learning or the effort in learning to perform. "I am born with a talent that will be useful. I am not in a hurry," Guan Chen smiled lightly, appearing very free and easy. Upon hearing this, Director Zhou's face was filled with an expression of, "I don't know if I should say something inappropriate." In the end, he said, "What you were trying to say earlier was, I was born with a handsome talent, but I have lost all my wealth and will come back again. Guan Chen remained silent for a moment. "Just tell me how the changes were." Director Zhou praised with great face, "I am born to be useful, and even if 1,000 pieces of gold are scattered, they will come back again. It's quite catchy, and those who specialize in literature are really skilled. It seems that my professional skills have not been neglected at all." Guan Chen smiled but remained silent. "I don't know how many mouths I've given myself. Let you show off, let you show off. What kind of knowledge to show off? The students from this prestigious university are also too difficult to perform, and if they don't pay attention, they will step on thunder." He made up his mind not to say anything about ancient poetry, proverbs, and proverbs. Why not continue with the performance? Director Zhou seemed to feel regretful for Guan Chen and wanted to guide him to speak out about the difficulties. It's a bit complicated, Guan Chen refused to say. If you tell the camera, it might be seen by some director, and maybe there might be another chance, Director Zhou joked half seriously. Guan Chen waved his hand as if there was really a hidden meaning. Director Zhou has no choice. There is nothing new to ask about, and the interview is about to end here. It's already 1 o'clock in the morning. Based on the content collected so far, although the quality is not average, it ultimately did not meet Zhou's expectations. It is regrettable that Guan Chen has always kept some reservations. If you put the title on it, most of the time you can only attract viewers by writing articles about how graduates from Yunnan University have fallen to such a level. Zhou stood up and strolled around in front of the bookshelf, preparing to buy a few more books as support, in addition to the criminal law. What is this? Zhou Dao suddenly saw a strange book. The spine of the book does not have a title, only a large one is marked. Take it out, and the cover says, "The First Step to Becoming an Actor." So this is not a book, it's a notebook. Mixing among a pile of books, pretending to be a book. It was quite successful, almost unnoticed. Zhou Dao took a few steps back and his eyes were sharp as he searched through the bookshelf, quickly finding the book labeled, 2. Take it out, no surprises. The cover says, "The Second Step to Becoming an Actor." According to the pattern, there should be steps 3, 4, and 5 afterwards. Director Zhou had a premonition that the reasons why Guan Chen refused to give up the performance should all be included in these notes. He wanted to open it to see, but at least his conscience remained intact. He knew that it was unethical to open it without permission and peek at someone else's privacy. Can you take a look at this? Director Zhou asked. Guan Chen was tidying up the newspaper he found today. Upon hearing the inquiry, he turned his head and saw that Zhou Dao was holding a book in the bookshelf. He casually waved his hand and said, "Take a look." Director Zhou and the young cameraman exchanged a glance, and the latter immediately opened the camera again. Note: the lengthy dialogue about the law in the article comes from the movie, The Burning Sun. From the Dunhuang fragments of Li Bai's poetry manuscript, it is said that I am born with a talented talent and 1,000 pieces of gold have scattered and returned. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Moving Towards the Future. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4 Moving Towards the Future. Open the first page of The First Step to Becoming an Actor. The first page is written with the time. It was 3 years ago, 2,229 years ago. Flip to the second page and the content begins to appear. Director Zhou looked over with curiosity. Movie #One-Armed Hero 2 is simply trash. The character's motives are unknown, and the male lead switches his facial expressions back and forth throughout the entire process. The female lead kisses like gnawing on a pig's hoof, with a ferocious expression. The male lead calls him a catcher, more so than a flower picker. The female lead. Interview #After listening to XXX's interview, he felt nauseous. The host asked him how he felt about his acting skills, but he still said he had the potential to become the best actor. Didn't anyone slap him to make him sober? His proud performance was just a low-end version of XX, convincing in the context of historical costumes. In modern times, even with this style of acting, his mind couldn't turn and he didn't want to make progress. The unexpected content was like a fierce horse suddenly stepping into the lawn, and Director Zhou immediately covered the camera next to him. Grass, don't shoot for now. If these things are released, even if the ratings of the program increase, they are mostly criticized. Seasonal programs that consume traffic may take this path. But their plan for tonight is to have a steady stream, and it's really not suitable to do so. Guan Chen, who seemed to have a wild and unrestrained style, didn't expect his writing to be so sharp and tricky. Zhou Dao looked at the book with lingering fear, then at Guan Chen, who was wrapping a screwdriver in a newspaper behind him. "Don't take photos casually," Guan Chen put down the screwdriver wrapped in newspaper. "Don't worry, I have a count." Zhou Dao put away the notes from the first step, took out the second step, and asked the camera not to lift it up for now. The intensity of the second note is also higher. Book hashtag "Can I publish a book at this level? If I want to raise money, I can also bring out some works." The insights inside are almost copied from the description of Teacher Wang in Poetic Body. The only commendable thing is that a few short stories are well written, enough to be published in the chicken soup section of My Friend. Reflection hashtag "I didn't watch a movie or read a book today. I saw a few news articles yesterday and wanted to encourage them to work hard. I hope they will continue to work together to destroy Huaxia film and television. When there is traffic like Wang Qingjun everywhere, why don't we all eat shit together?" Flip back a few more pages to see the rest. The content is similar, either criticizing a certain movie or mocking a certain actor. Although every note in the notes clearly points out the shortcomings of a certain movie or actor, with targeted and precise criticism, the arrogance in it cannot be concealed. It is unbearable to see everything, and even if a reasonable thing is said with such a cynical attitude, it is simply disgusting, and good words can turn into bad ones. Zhou Dao closed his notebook and didn't even need to look at the other books. He could guess that it must be full of anger and murderous intent. Just writing this kind of content, no matter how many steps you take, you can't become an actor. "What are you talking about?" Guan Chen suddenly leaned in. Zhou had a lot to say, but he couldn't say it in front of Guan Chen, so he had to hand over his notebook and roast with his eyes. Guan Chen took the note and casually flipped it over to a certain page. He immediately laughed and exclaimed, "Ha ha ha, I'm really interesting." He didn't worry that the fans of the movies and actors mentioned would tear him apart after the content of the note was released. "You're the one who's interested in saying such things, right?" Zhou Dao looked at Guan Chen in front of him and recalled the nearly half hour they had spent together. Guan Chen was generous and not affected. Not only did he not feel inferior due to the environment around him, but he also had a kind of big brother-like arrogance. Communication was very enjoyable, while also taking care of delicacy, so as not to be too heartless. Although he has read so many books, he is not in a hurry to show off his knowledge and express himself. If he doesn't ask, he is likely to be like an ordinary person who wouldn't even say he graduated from a prestigious university, even though he was an unsuccessful actor. After hearing an interview from the TV station, he didn't flatter and post any hope for exposure. Even if given the opportunity to promote himself, he wouldn't do it. If it weren't for the notes being found, I wouldn't have known that he still had such a sharp and harsh side. The two images inside and outside the notes are too contradictory. It's like two people. It's like two people, Zhou Dao exclaimed without hiding his feelings. For director Zhou, it was just a sigh of emotion, but for Guan Chen, it was an antivirus reminder. There is a vulnerability. Guan Chen put down his notebook to reflect on himself. Now is really not the time to read roast about the best collections. He has a completely different style of behavior from his predecessor, and strangers may only have slight doubts. However, those who have a close relationship with his predecessor will definitely feel unfamiliar. Guan Chen is not worried about being caught and sliced after the matter is exposed. When relatives and friends feel strange, he can only move to another city to live. But moving requires money, and he doesn't have any money now. So before he can save enough money to abandon his old social relationships and embrace a new world of life, the loophole cannot explode. He has a different style of behavior from his predecessor, and there must be a reasonable explanation. It's like this. Guan Chen interrupted Zhou Dao's imagination and lowered his head to pull out a plastic bag from the ground. Zhou Dao saw the blue handwriting on the white plastic bag. The 10th People's Hospital of the Magic City. 7 days ago, I encountered a fire and was only discharged yesterday. The doctor said I was very lucky and almost became a vegetative, unable to wake up. Guan Chen's tone gradually slowed down. When I was unconscious, I had a dream about many things and many people, including some people I really dislike and things that I have always been unhappy with. Although it was sudden, Guan Chen's sudden confession still surprised director Zhou. Hurry up and ask the guy to set up the camera and start working again. Guan Chen instinctively adjusted the angle of his sitting position so that the light could shine down and his face could be more photographed. I didn't major in acting in college, and it wasn't until I graduated that I suddenly wanted to try acting and become an actor. I lived here for 3 years and relied on odd jobs to make ends meet. The rest of my time was spent buying books, reading, writing, and learning to perform. I felt very talented and didn't like anything I read. So I have almost no friends now. Maybe no one will attend my funeral even after I die. When a person is about to die, there is no flashback of past clouds and smoke passing by. When I lie in bed thinking about what I have, I find that I have nothing but hatred. Self-reflection is not any form of performance, it is the narrator poking his own lung tube and dissecting his heart layer by layer like an onion. As Guan Chen spoke, he remembered his lonely death in his past life. At that time, the boss's incident occurred and he was sent to take the blame. The boss said he must find a way to get him out. Until he was executed, he was unable to wait for any words from the boss. In the few seconds waiting for the drug to take effect, looking back on my life, I realized that I had never received anything and had left nothing behind. Director Zhou and the cameraman listened quietly. After a moment of silence, Guan Chen's words suddenly changed, and his eyes were bright as 2 freshly sharpened knives. I'm lucky enough to have saved my life. I woke up from a coma for 3 days without any sequelae. After being discharged from the hospital, I thought about doing something different from before. For example, I want to make friends, make many friends. I want to leave this small room and go somewhere else. After listening to Guan Chen's words, Zhou and the cameraman were able to understand to some extent the reasons for the significant transformation that occurred before and after Guan Chen. This is probably a great disaster that never dies, there must be future blessings. Director Zhou is happy for Guan Chen and feels that his current mindset is quite good. It's not bad to let Guan Chen, who used to be cynical, gloomy and vicious, stay in the past. Ah, wait, the fire 7 days ago. Director Zhou suddenly thought of something and asked Guan Chen urgently, where did you encounter the fire? Guan Chen thought for a moment and said, the doctor told me it's Anping apartment. Anping apartment. The director clapped his hands in excitement as he knew about the big fire. 7 days ago, a friend from the news department on the radio told me that a fire broke out in Anping apartment, which was quite large. Scale. Because the fire occurred late at night, it burned and suffocated many people. There was just a young man who ran in and out before the fire truck arrived, saving many people. Unfortunately, the enthusiastic young man probably lost his stamina in the end. After the last attempt to rush in, he didn't come out for a long time. Later, when the firefighters rescued him, the young man had already fallen into a coma. It is said that his condition was very bad, and he had inhaled a large amount of toxic gas. Even if he woke up, he might have become a vegetative due to brain damage. Are you the one who saved many people? Director Zhou looked at Guan Chen in shock. Guan Chen nodded and said, yes. Zhou Dao took a deep breath and realized that he had gained a lot from this trip tonight. He excitedly asked Guan Chen a few questions, such as, why rush into the fire to save people and, what is one's mood when surrounded by the fire? Guan Chen's answer was ordinary but great, actually, I don't remember how I thought at that time. It can be said to be an instinctive reaction of the body. If I were in a state of mind, I would be very anxious at first, thinking about how I could die here. Later, I realized that I couldn't change the outcome of death, so I thought to myself, it turns out that death is like this. After listening to the story of the fire accident, Zhou Dao recalled the stark contrast between the inside and outside of his notes, the dirty and messy environment, and the tidy bookshelf, and some vague thoughts formed in his mind. The previous episodes of the program always made people feel, almost, in terms of content. Now he has some idea where that little really falls short. In the past, he used to go to passers-by to take photos of materials, furniture, and decoration everywhere, trying to use the furnishings of the house as keys to unlock the personality code of the homeowner. Now Guan Chen has proven that, on the other hand, with the interviewee as the theme, using human stories as keys to unlock the password of the house. Before encountering something, your life may be one way or another, but something ordinary or unexpected suddenly happens, and your life changes from then on. The surrounding environment is a reflection of personality, not a cause of personality. Through this interview, director Zhou felt that he had a different understanding of his work. I wanted to become an actor and experience life, but encountered setbacks and became as secluded as I. One day, I became an unknown hero and saved several people from a big fire. After experiencing life and death, I finally woke up and gained a broader life. Director Zhou immediately gave the title to the content we filmed today. It's almost a standard inspirational movie, with a high enough intention and a plot full of ups and downs. It's already 2 o'clock in the morning, but director Zhou is not at all sleepy. He just wants to quickly cut out tonight's materials. In addition, convene the main creators to adjust the focus of filming after the program. Zhou Dao did not forget to buy books to support Guan Chen. After buying 3 books for 200 yuan, he bid farewell to Guan Chen with full satisfaction and harvest. Guan Chen played the book money left by the director, but still didn't get used to the appearance of money. It looked like counterfeit money, and he couldn't tell when it would be thrown away as waste paper. With a sigh, Guan Chen carefully collected the money. Glancing at the messy room, he began to tidy up. Today's harvest was quite satisfactory. After selling 3 books, Guan Chen felt like he was one step closer to his goal. And it also filled a loophole. Guan Chen didn't know how his predecessor's interpersonal relationships were, nor did he know if the other person would think he was different. He has no plans to live like his predecessor in the future, so using this interview, he fixed the saying, after experiencing a fire, life is bleak from now on, and should be able to deceive his predecessor's family and friends. But it's not absolute either. If his predecessor had complicated interpersonal relationships and family composition, he would still have to move to a new home or move to a different city, once and for all. So he needs money. Moving requires money, but living in a different city requires more money. Without money, one can only sit idly by and do nothing. Even collecting information about this world is very difficult. The predecessor did not purchase a TV or a computer, and the phone was lost at the scene of the fire, leaving Guan Chen with only a window to learn about the world, which was filled with books. Unable to read, I had to exchange money to go to an internet cafe, watch animations, comics, and movies, combining education with entertainment. This plan is the most cost-effective way to save money and buy a computer. Alas, there are so many things to buy. Guan Chen sighed, but in reality, he was not very anxious. Being able to leisurely plan for the future is already a kind of happiness for him. Putting Zhou's business card into the drawer casually, Guan Chen began to tidy up the room. The process of tidying up the room is also a process for Guan Chen to understand some details about his predecessor. For example, understanding the places where the predecessor frequently appeared from invoices, and being cautious when passing through those places in the future. Those who have appeared in graduation photos should remember to avoid them from afar in the future. In the student record, it is understood who the predecessor had a good relationship with and who potential unexpected visitors were. Be cautious cleaning up. Guan Chen soon sweated profusely and his arms became sore. This body is still too weak. Guan Chen made up his mind to quickly exercise his body, while complaining that if it weren't for his handsome appearance and taller stature compared to his previous life, he would have ruthlessly removed his account and started over. Exercise and eating meat also cost money. Guan Chen remembered in his heart that there was another place where money needed to be used. Guan Chen tidied up the room intermittently, and then it was the entrance. There are many shoes in the entrance, and more letters scattered on the ground. These letters are mostly advertisements and flyers, and Guan Chen casually stuffed them into the garbage bag. Picking it up, Guan Chen seemed to catch a glimpse of a different one and picked it up. This different letter was sent last week, and the recipient information outside was handwritten, with handwriting resembling a dog crawling. Open it and take out a piece of paper, the content inside is printed. Dear Guan Chen, you have successfully registered for the Xingyan Performance Training Class, collection amount 12600 Huaxia coins. The class will start at 7 p.m. on November 12th, with the address at XX Road, XX District waiting for your arrival. Then it comes with a thin invoice. After reading it, Guan Chen casually folded it back. Wait, it says how much the fee is. Guan Chen suddenly opened the letter again and widened his eyes to count the numbers on it. 100,000. 12600 Chinese currency. He sells books and sells about 250 books are needed to save this money. How many meals can this be exchanged for? Guan Chen gritted his teeth and put down his finger. November 12th happened to be the day after the fire broke out on November 11th. That is to say, the predecessor died before he could attend this performance class. Although he felt a bit guilty about his predecessor, Guan Chen felt that there was still something to be happy about. As long as there was no class, there was still hope of getting the money back. Guan Chen held the letter and solemnly put it into the pocket of his sportswear. This 12,600 Huaxia coins are better used in more valuable places than wasted in performance training classes. Guan Chen looked at the letter and invoice in his hand and swallowed his saliva. In a daze, I saw a large amount of meat, milk, vegetables, and knives. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Performance Class. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5 Performance Class. Guan Chen is determined to get the refund of tuition fees for the performance class and has been preparing early in the morning. At 7 o'clock in the morning, Guan Chen put on a gray sportswear suit and started running downstairs. On the one hand, it is to familiarize oneself with the nearby environment, and on the other hand, it is to test one's physical fitness in case of any unfortunate danger in the future, so as not to be unable to run away or catch up. Although I plan to be a law-abiding citizen in this life, when I accidentally come to my door, I will not see if you are a good person. The test results are amazing. The physical fitness of this body is almost at the level of second-grade elementary school students, and it is the type of second-grade students who are not very active. Guan Chen knew because a primary school student wearing a small yellow hat was almost late for school, carrying a backpack and running desperately towards the bus stop. At that time, Guan Chen was not far behind the student, and there was immediately a sprint race. Narrowly won. If it weren't for the doctor confidently stating that he was healthy when he was discharged, Guan Chen would have doubted whether his body was missing any organs. In the end, Guan Chen could only attribute the test results to the incomplete recovery of the sprained ankle yesterday, or the incomplete elimination of the sequelae. Guan Chen complained about his weak body while running and exercising hard. In the end, he instinctively knelt on the roadside and retched. Still a little worried, vomit. Guan Chen endured the feeling of nausea and walked home head and foot. But all of this was within his expectations. It can even be said that what is needed is this effect. When he got home and brought his medical record book, Guan Chen, with a pale face and sweat all over his body, didn't change his clothes or wash his face. He was ready to go to the Xingyan performance training class to demand tuition fees. After all, the other party makes a living by teaching performances, such as the ordinary acting skills that enjoyed the future in front of the director of, "Can I go to your home tonight?" yesterday, and using them again today may not be able to fool them. So Guan Chen planned to throw himself up and kill two birds with one stone. He not only gained exercise but also looked like he was about to die. By then, he would be able to claim his tuition fees by holding his medical record book and lying down at the door of the training class. Unfortunately, there is no computer at home, and he can't go to the internet cafe in time. Otherwise, playing on the computer all night would make the effect look more realistic. On the way, Guan Chen took advantage of the sympathy of passers-by and borrowed the navigation software from their mobile phones to obtain the path to the training course address. Guan Chen took notes with the paper he carried with him. Fortunately, it's not too far away. In the same urban area, my face cannot recover. At this time, it was work time, and Guan Chen was eagerly observing everyone in the subway, which felt very interesting. For example, the clothes worn by people in this world. Yesterday, Guan Chen thought that the Chinese formal attire in this world would be similar to the Zhongshan attire in his previous life. Today, upon seeing it, he felt that he still underestimated the fashion level and aesthetics of the Chinese people in this world. Upon closer inspection, the formal attire in this world, apart from the design of the collar and the style of the buttons, is no longer significantly different from previous suits. Young people don't feel outdated in their attire, and women also look crisp and neat in their attire. The styling and design of casual wear are diverse and colorful, with some people using bold colors and others pairing it with simplicity. Even some elderly people dress elegantly and elegantly. Guan Chen doesn't understand fashion, and after reading for a while, he only thinks that the elderly here may not be easy to deceive. Health products should not be sold to these people. Young people don't look easy to deceive either. Standing in the carriage, at first glance, there are actually many people sitting or standing with books reading. In this world, TSK. Guan Chen silently ranked the priority sequence of telecommunications fraud very low in his heart. An old man felt Guan Chen's scorching gaze and turned his head, feeling somewhat surprised. He thought Guan Chen was about to die and quickly offered his seat. Guan Chen touched his face and was satisfied with the result. After refusing the old man's offer to give up his seat, he arrived at the station and stepped out of the subway. He stopped a subway service staff and used their professional skills to successfully inquire about the specific location and door number of the Xingyan performance training class. After leaving the platform and walking for about 300 meters, Guan Chen finally arrived at his destination. This is a building that is about 5 stories high, built with red bricks and looks like it has been around for some time. Standing in a relatively bustling area, on the same street, there were clothing stores, bakeries, dessert shops. Guan Chen was so greedy all the way that he made up his mind to reward his body after receiving the money later. The sign of the Xingyan performance training class cannot be seen from outside the building. As Guan Chen walked inside, he found a plaque pasted on the wall next to the door, layer by layer with different colors, indicating the business content of each floor. The second floor is a pottery center, and the fourth floor is a recording studio. The performance training class is on the third floor. Walking to the third floor, I saw a sliding glass door. As I closed the door, I walked in and saw a lobby that combines leisure and waiting functions. The sofa, tables and chairs have been in use for some years, and many details reflect that this performance training class is not the kind of unscrupulous company that earns short money and runs away. There are several old movie posters pasted on the wall, and upon closer inspection, the common feature is that there is the name Xingyan in the lead cast. There are some old or new photos placed on the counter, which Guan Chen doesn't know, but it can be guessed that they are photos of Xingyan and other celebrities, highlighting Chapter 6. The Villain in Memory. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. The Villain in Memory. Suddenly named, Guan Chen trembled. This is a residual conditioned reflex from the student era. I never came to the last class. Guan Chen unconsciously raised his volume. It's okay, when you signed up, you said that some scenes shouldn't be performed like that. I can see that you have some ideas. Just act according to what you want to do. Xingyan also gave a lesson to everyone. In the future, you may also encounter situations where you need to perform on the spot when participating in auditions. So, you should keep some weapons in reserve and be prepared for unexpected situations. Everyone nodded and waited for Guan Chen, who had a lot of ideas, to give a demonstration. Guan Chen fell into contemplation. Faced with the sudden situation of handing in homework on time, he could refuse to leave. After all, he didn't plan to stay long and didn't need this opportunity to practice. However, losing face in public can make the situation more complicated. He has seen too many examples in his previous life where he gave up half his life in order to fight for a breath. When feeling emotional, one will not think about the consequences. Until it was absolutely necessary, Guan Chen didn't want to really resort to any means against the old man's family. He has a good impression of the old man Xingyan. After listening for so much time, to be fair, the other party can be considered a very good teacher. Professional skills are not bad, not secretive, and patient. More importantly, his body has not yet fully developed, and he cannot handle running or solving problems with ease. Why don't you go up like a teddy bear and dedicate a piece of trash acting to deal with the old man, wasting everyone 5 minutes? Guan Chen has an idea. Okay. Guan Chen stood up, stumbling and hitting his knees, walked out of the seat and onto the stage. In the first second of standing on stage, Guan Chen felt a sense of space from the light, and the whole feeling was completely different from sitting under the stage. Even the air on stage is heavier. What do you want to play? The old man asked him. Just act. Guan Chen thought for a moment. The interrogation scene in Weak Dawn. There was an inexplicable roar of "oh" from the audience. Because the interrogation scene in Weak Dawn was chosen by Su Wenjie's group, who were the first to appear on stage. When two people perform the same content, they will naturally be compared in their hearts. Guan Chen's actions had a sense of provocation. Su Wenjie smiled and didn't pay much attention to the commotion from the people around him, clearly confident in his performance. Have confidence. Having confidence is enough. Guan Chen also cheered and wished for Su Wenjie in his heart. Because he deliberately chose Su Wenjie's homework because of his good performance. If you choose a weak chicken like a bear, any bad acting skills will be set off very brilliantly. Who will set up a scene for him? Xingyan turned his head and asked behind him. The interrogation scene in Weak Dawn requires 2 people. I know that part. The little bear raised his hand high. Xiong Yu. Xingyan didn't think much and pointed to Little Bear, agreeing to let her play. He originally intended to assign Su Wenjie's partner to the stage, but when he saw Little Bear raise his hand, he let her go. Xiaoxiong seems to have some friendship with Guan Chen, and they are familiar with each other. It may be more appropriate to set up a scene. The little bear ran happily onto the stage. Guan Chen stared blankly at the approaching bear, unable to say a word. Don't worry, I won't hold you back. The little bear patted Guan Chen's shoulder. You're already doing this. Guan Chen covered his shoulders and gritted his teeth, his plan in disarray. Now he just hopes that Little Bear Awesome can forget his words and perform them in a random way, and then the old man will drive him back to his position. Guan Chen stood in the center of the stage, and everyone's gaze fell on him, furry like mushrooms growing out of his skin. Guan Chen endured his skin that seemed to be burning and itching, and began to adjust his state, preparing to play the role of a criminal being interrogated in a cage. There is no doubt that Guan Chen does not know how to act. Even though he fooled the director of Tonight yesterday, he also made a mess of himself today, intending to deceive the acting teacher and reclaim his tuition fees. But in reality, it was all his own performance. Let him play someone else seriously, he can't do it. Guan Chen has self-awareness, so he plans to learn from other people's performances. Recalling the scene of Su Wenjie's performance, the tone, rhythm, movements, and demeanor when reciting lines, the performance has begun. Guan Chen replicated Su Wenjie's performance in his mind. I didn't copy it carefully, I just thought to sneer before saying this line, right, stop here, then look at the ground, do you want to lower the tone here? It's strange. Absent-mindedly, I completed the pull tab and then copied it one by one. He found that his memory was also really good. He didn't deliberately memorize Su Wenjie's expressions, body parts, and lines, but he also memorized them. Little Bear also performed a detective who seemed unable to catch a criminal very seriously. Unfortunately, she really knew about the scene, although it was terrible and exaggerated, at least she didn't say a wrong line or improvise. The two of them spoke one by one, and in the end, they smoothly completed the entire performance. Very good. Very good. As soon as the performance ended, Xing Yan applauded. The other students applauded along. The little bear happily bowed to everyone in gratitude. Then Xing Yan added the latter half of his sentence. If this was just an imitation show, you could definitely score 90 points. The applause suddenly came to a halt, and everyone could hear the sarcasm in Xing Yan's tone. After the whole room quieted down, Xing Yan was about to start commenting. He ignored the little bear and directly said, Guan Chen. Guan Chen, let me talk about your question first. You imitated Su Wenjie's performance very well, almost Su Wenjie himself. You look so handsome, it really hurts you. Xing Yan began with a strange sentence, laying the tone for the comments, which meant that the next words would be more direct and less tactful than all the previous ones. Sure enough. Just now, Su Wenjie paused when he said, I killed so many of your friends. It was because he had eaten melon seeds before, which caused him to choke on his lines. You even perfectly copied this detail, it's really yours. Imitation is not a big deal, new actors imitate the performances of other actors, which is itself a form of learning. But your imitation is just imitation, not performance. You are just pushing another expression with one expression. You don't know what the character is thinking when they say that line or perform a certain action. You also don't know how to collaborate with the person you're playing against and contribute to a performance. You're just, I should laugh now, I should bow my head, I should touch my fingers. It's really boring. If you like imitation so much, you should go to a variety show or imitation show. Becoming an actor is missing your future. Xing Yan looked regretful. Guan Chen listened on stage without saying a word. Because everything was said right, there's really nothing to refute. His performance just now was like copying a classmate's homework when he was in school, but he didn't pay attention and accidentally copied his classmate's name. But for him, being able to copy is already giving face to the teacher. If the teacher doesn't know what to do, one of them will inevitably lose face. And that person has never been him. When you signed up, you said you had self-taught acting for 3 years. You took out the registration fee you had saved up from working and just wanted to see if you were suitable for being an actor. I'll tell you now. If you only have these things after 3 years of learning, then you should find another way out early. You're not suitable for the job of an actor. Xing Yan cruelly and kindly judged. The students took a deep breath of air conditioning. For those who aspire to become actors, Xing Yan's words are simply the cruelest knife in the world. But Guan Chen didn't react much after listening. Watching Guan Chen remain indifferent, Xing Yan remained silent for a moment before adding another spark. You said you dropped out of school today. It's interesting. When you signed up earlier, you seemed to say you wanted to win the Golden Bull Award for Best Actor before the age of 40. I thought you were so talented, but it turned out to be just that level. My grandson who idles around at the front desk all day is more suitable to be an actor than you. This is not a question of cruelty, but rather the humiliation of Akira. Little Bear glared angrily, she didn't expect Xing Yan to say such outrageous things. What benefits does insulting two people at once have for him? Guan Chen smiled and felt that Xing Yan, the grandson of the old man, was so miserable. It was precisely because he was not suitable for acting that he was used as a negative example. Little Bear turned his head and glanced at Guan Chen. Is it time to laugh now? I have seen many people who have high eyes but low hands and speak shamelessly, but you even boast mediocrely. It's because there are too many self-righteous people like you who casually enter the entertainment industry, that your level has been declining year by year recently. Is the threshold for the profession of an actor so low? Why do all kinds of people want to be actors? Xing Yan's harsh words came one after another. As Guan Chen listened, his eyebrows began to slowly rise. It's okay to say that he doesn't have the talent for acting or doesn't deserve to be an actor. Anyway, he's cursing his predecessor and has nothing to do with Guan Chen. But listening to these endless insults, I finally felt a bit uncomfortable. What kind of industry scum, what kind of actor scum, what kind of industry is rotten, it's none of his business. He just came to demand tuition fees, there is no reason to give people a mental sandbag for free. Did you give the money? He's not a newly debuted kid anymore. He knows that when people wander in the martial arts world and are subjected to some abuse and contempt, they must first hold on. There are too many ways to retaliate against the old man without breaking the law, such as splashing paint, feces, and spending money to invite the young lady to come and cause trouble. Now, it seems that the tuition fee cannot be recovered peacefully. Guan Chen walked calmly down the stage, ready to leave. As a senior cadre of the club, he has so many ways to make money in his mind that he never starves to death. The old man saw Guan Chen walking towards the audience and was immediately panicked, thinking he was going to be beaten. The students sitting near him also quickly dispersed. Guan Chen had no intention of beating the old man in front of everyone, otherwise he would be punished and only have to eat the prison food in the detention center afterwards. He lowered his head, lifted his legs, and took the next step from the steps of the stage. But for some reason, just a step down from the stage, the light in front of him was completely dim, and a deep sense of loss and regret suddenly emerged in his heart. It's like jumping into the water from the shore, with a heavy blockage on my chest. Guan Chen was stunned for a moment. This feeling vaguely made him feel familiar. It feels like when he left the internet cafe computer in his previous life while studying. It feels like playing basketball recklessly with friends after skipping class, but being chased by the principal who rushed in upon hearing the news, and having to flee from the field. It's also like when he grew up, he put away his swing stick and left from the alleys filled with enemies. What's special about this broken stage? Guan Chen is inexplicable. My thoughts were wandering when suddenly a soft "no" sounded from the side. It was the little bear who ran over and grabbed him. The little bear possessed the power of a bear, and with a gentle movement, it led Guan Chen to stumble a few steps like a heavy loss, sitting on the steps. You can't act recklessly. Little Bear truly deserves to be a disciplinary committee member. Although she was also angry about Xing Yan's words, she still held down Guan Chen tightly and prevented him from doing anything foolish. She whispered, "He's already so old, you'll kill him. It's not worth ruining his future for such a person." Below the stage, this person's body swayed. I could hear the old man. Guan Chen's face was bewildered before he realized that the bear was blocking him from fighting. But he didn't even want to fight. Even if he wanted to fight, she had already ruined the atmosphere. Almost falling during a fight, it's like saying the wrong word while cursing, no matter what momentum, it will disappear instantly. Guan Chen struggled for a moment but couldn't break free. Little Bear's small hand pressed against him like a five-finger mountain. "I'm not fighting," Guan Chen explained. "I wasn't planning to fight either just now." Upon hearing Guan Chen's promise, Little Bear slowly opened and closed Chen's arms and shoulders, but his eyes were still nervously fixed on him, as if a slight movement would make him pounce. Being interrupted by the Little Bear, the atmosphere at the scene was not serious at all. Guan Chen rubbed his waist and looked back at the stage. The stage was empty, with only rudimentary props. The floor is covered with numerous scars, indicating the age of the past. Under the illumination of ceiling lights, it was as unreal as another world. "Teacher Xing, those words were a bit excessive just now." The Little Bear beside him began to settle accounts with Mr. Xing. "It's okay, isn't it?" Xing Yan saw that Guan Chen was effectively controlled, and after confirming his safety, he regained his master's demeanor with ease. You just said he's not suitable to be an actor and called him industry trash. Would it be too arbitrary to make judgments based on a performance? Little Bear defended Guan Chen. Guan Chen gave a strange glance at the little bear, feeling a bit uneasy. He has never been spoken up by a good person before. I have been acting for 50 years. Whoever is born to be able to eat this bowl of rice, whoever works hard can eat it, and whoever can't afford this bowl of rice in their lifetime, I can still see it. Those who can't act but die to act and can't recognize themselves are garbage. Xing Yan stared at Guan Chen and said these words, but his eyes stopped at Little Bear for 0.2 seconds. The little bear shook its head and said, if you take a wrong look, won't you ruin someone? Xing Yan laughed like a villain. A person who can be destroyed by someone else's word cannot become an actor. Even if they are not destroyed by me, they will be destroyed by other things and people in the future. Guan Chen suddenly raised his hand and interjected, this sounds like stabbing someone with a knife first. He deserves to die because this person will eventually die. He scratched his eyebrows and said, even I know this logic is not appropriate. I have been using this method of teaching all along, at least until now, I haven't looked through it. Xing Yan hugged his arms. Guan Chen looked at the old man's head raised high and suddenly didn't want to say anything. After living for most of one's life, one's thinking is already fixed. So some elderly people are deceived once and will be deceived by other means for the second and third time. No matter how much others teach them, they cannot be taught back. In Guan Chen's view, Xing Yan is the kind of stubborn old man. Reasoning to such people is simply a waste of effort and not pleasing. But such an old man also has a good side. Guan Chen believes that this old man is the target audience for telecommunications fraud and unlicensed health products, and is a potential customer. Guan Chen didn't want to say anything, but Little Bear had a lot to say. She retorted to Xing Yan, but Guan Chen's true level is not like this. I've known Guan Chen for so many years, and I'm sure he takes his performance very seriously. He is very talented, definitely not the kind of actor who just fools around. Little Bear glanced at Guan Chen. She felt that the old classmate around her had changed a bit. When questioned, she still felt so calm. If she had fought back with the most vicious words in the world before. But the calm old classmate was also very good. Previously, it was because of his poisonous mouth that I couldn't accommodate him even after going to several performance classes. However, it doesn't seem like there's anything worth staying in this class. She believes that it is irresponsible for Xing Yan to judge a person's suitability for acting based on just one performance. She has heard the words, "You are not suitable for acting," and "You are wasting time," countless times, and she has always disliked this result-oriented and success-oriented approach. In her opinion, if she likes something, she can do it well. Is it really important for those who are not gifted? And the old classmate next to her has no lower passion for acting than her. He just didn't take it seriously earlier, Little Bear said, pinching Guan Chen's shoulder. She has witnessed an old classmate sitting at the station and hospital for a whole day in order to learn acting skills. I have also seen old classmates wandering in various mutual aid groups. She knows the efforts of her old classmate, so she doesn't want him to be misunderstood as a greedy gangster. As Guan Chen listened to the story described by Little Bear, one scene after another slowly appeared before his eyes. Ah! Guan Chen understood. He stroked the smooth floor of the stage with his palm propped up behind him, realizing that the strong attachment in his body came from his predecessor. Upon hearing this, Xing Yan quickly became energetic and said, "Didn't you take it seriously? All right, show me the proof." Guan Chen smiled. "A despicable strategy, only fools can. Let's do that scene again just now." Little Bear turned his head and stared into Guan Chen's eyes, his fighting spirit surging. "You should be more serious this time, stop playing, and show your true skills." Guan Chen. If he still refuses to apologize after watching your performance, I'll drop out with you. In such a place, let's not wait. Little Bear looked serious. Don't be like this, right? Guan Chen was somewhat surprised. Little Bear has already been very righteous, and without knowing that his friend's account has been changed, he corrected his name and stood out for his good friend. Guan Chen can understand this behavior and even appreciate it. Because righteousness is the most important quality in their mixed life. Anyway, I was originally recommended by you. If it's okay, let's go find the next class together. Little Bear whispered encouragement to Guan Chen, come on, act better. I'm so angry with Teacher Xing. Xing Yan shouted from the audience, I can hear you. Little Bear hurriedly ran away, hid at the edge of the stage, closed his eyes, pretended to be adjusting his state, and asked the audience below to stop talking. Guan Chen slowly stood up. The next class. There's no next one left. Guan Chen looked at the little bear with some regret. The young man who was chasing her dreams with her has already passed away. Guan Chen stood up straight, feeling the attention of the whole class focused on him. If it were in his previous life, he would definitely stare back fiercely. Whoever dares to look at each other, he would hit them with his shoulder and ask, what are you looking at? But now, he only feels a kind of momentum, the momentum of his performance, as if as long as he has the opportunity to stand back on stage, he will be happy enough. Not promising. Guan Chen cursed inwardly. But looking at the eager little bear in the distance, experiencing the acceleration of his heart and the impulse to fill the empty stage, Guan Chen thought for a moment and stepped back onto the stage. Death row inmates have a chance to meet their families for the last time before execution. You don't have a chance anymore, so let's give you a farewell stage and say goodbye. Guan Chen turned around and approached the cage again. The cage on stage is roughly enclosed by several chairs. Guan Chen stood still in the cage. Take a closer look at the feeling you had just now. You wanted to hit me, but because I'm an old man and a teacher, you can't take action, that kind of frustration. Xing Yan in the audience suddenly reminded Guan Chen. Guan Chen was taken aback for a moment before realizing that the insults he had just received might have been intentional by Xing Yan, showing an extreme teaching style. Of course, it is also possible that Xing Yan is washing himself white and making steps for being beaten in the future. But regardless of the motive, Guan Chen refused to accept this. After insulting and suppressing, suddenly came a kind word, saying that I was actually doing it for your own good. This is his mother in PUA, right? Guan Chen ignored Xing Yan's hint and took a deep breath, pondering how to perform it later. He knew very well that he didn't know how to act, and he didn't know to what extent Little Bear was talking about his true abilities. He only handed it over to this body and acted instinctively. As for what the performance looks like, he doesn't care. But after all, the body won't move on its own. Its predecessor was completely dead, and if Guan Chen's mind didn't give him a drive, the body wouldn't be able to perform anything. Continuing to imitate classmates like Su Wenjie will only bring shame to oneself. Therefore, he can only imitate other characters, and the experienced Xing Yan cannot determine who he is imitating. Cage, interrogation, criminal, villain. Guan Chen thought of one memorable movie character after another that he had watched in his past life. If it were to imitate these characters for performance, then in this world, no other person can distinguish it except him. But can one imitate that level of character on their own? Or can this body do it? Guan Chen has some doubts. However, the next second, as if in response to his hesitation, Guan Chen suddenly felt his heart pounding in his chest. This is not because of nervousness, but because of excitement. The desire for the performance almost permeated through the body, and every strand of muscle seemed to be stirring. I want to perform. Guan Chen felt every cell in his body shouting. He came to his senses. The body left to him by his predecessor, although despised by Guan Chen, cannot be denied that this body has been honed and prepared for 3 years in order to perform. A sudden image came to Guan Chen's mind, which was of a person standing in front of a wall full of books in that narrow room, either freely or restrained, waving their limbs and changing their expressions in front of the mirror. Outside the window, there are 3 alternating seasons of spring, summer, autumn, and winter. Come on, feeling the subtle excitement and trembling in his body, Guan Chen took a deep breath and let go of his fear and doubts about classic characters from his past life. At this moment, he let go of his mind and turned his thoughts to his body, intending to work together with his predecessor to deliver a late performance. Huaxia. Guan Chen lowered his head and snapped his fingers at the little bear, indicating that it was time to start. The little bear's spirit was shaken. The performance has begun. Everyone held their breath and watched attentively. The little bear stepped on its steps and walked from the other side of the stage towards the cage of the stage. In the cage, Guan Chen sat cross-legged on the ground, slightly hanging his head, looking bored at the ground, his body swaying and muttering. Seemingly hearing the footsteps of the newcomer, Guan Chen moved slightly and slowly lifted his head. That messy, sweaty hair hung down on his colorless, disheveled face, resembling a drowning dog. It just seems like a very ordinary and difficult criminal. The students either think that Guan Chen doesn't know how to act anymore, or they think he plays very ordinary. However, when Guan Chen lifted his head, their careful thoughts were all cut off in an instant. Guan Chen's eyes, hidden under his hair, were bright but like black holes, as if they contained all the evil in the world. Cunning, dark, crazy. Trapped in a cage, he seemed to have no worries about his own safety. It's like he confirms that he can't die, or maybe it doesn't matter if he dies, he doesn't care. Little Bear paused in his footsteps and was startled by Guan Chen's eyes. He felt like he was staring at the abyss, unable to touch the bottom. But after realizing that it was a performance, I swallowed my saliva and continued to move forward. The closer you get to Guan Chen, the faster your heart beats. You're here. Guan Chen's tone was light and delicate, with one side of his mouth lightly curled, looking at the other person with a hint of appreciation. It seems that at this moment, he is the person outside the cage. In the script, Xiaoxiong, as the person who personally sent Guan Chen to prison, is angry about a failed operation and wants to know more information, so he comes to ask Guan Chen for help. Faced with the criminal played by Guan Chen, Little Bear couldn't express his anger in his lines. Because she felt that Guan Chen across from her seemed to expect you to become angry and lose control. The more angry you are, the happier he becomes. As people approach death, they reveal their true selves. I have killed so many of your friends, and to some extent, I know your friends better than you do. Don't you want to know who the real cowards are among them? Guan Chen's voice was like a demon's whisper. It seems that destroying a person's rationality and tearing apart the mask of a just person are the things he enjoys seeing the most. What's the difference between laughing and crying to death? It's all bad luck. Little Bear gritted his head and read his lines. Ha! Guan Chen suddenly chuckled lightly and clicked his lips, as if he was disliking the interrogator in front of him. Are you just here to say such boring things? The little bear trembled and continued to read his lines. I really want to know. She kept a certain distance from Guan Chen and performed the entire scene like a standing post. The whole process is not at all clever and justice is invincible. Guan Chen's gaze was like slippery tentacles, swirling around her neck, eyes, and other weak areas. After being entangled, it became tighter and tighter. How could there be such a look? The goosebumps on the little bear's body hardly dissipated, fearing that Guan Chen would jump up and commit a crime and escape from prison in the next second. She unconsciously wanted to circle behind Guan Chen and completely disappear from his sight. It seems that only in this way can we obtain some safety. Guan Chen didn't pay much attention and still sat on the ground, stretching his shoulders, letting his aura fill the entire cage. He followed the direction of the script and ultimately revealed the information, but his frivolous tone and playful gaze made the process feel like a cat repeatedly playing with food. The clues given from his mouth were like brightly colored but inexplicable lures, making people wonder if they should willingly jump into the trap. When Little Bear left the cage, he dared not turn his back to Guan Chen. At the moment she stepped out of the cage, she felt a sense of liberation. Just, those things that can't kill you will only make you stronger, Guan Chen's words suddenly echoed from behind. She was so shocked that her scalp tingled and her feet almost went limp. This sudden remark seemed to kindly encourage Little Bear to continue her efforts, but in everyone's ears, it was more like Guan Chen revealing his future. He would surely make a comeback with a stronger posture. Don't blame me for not reminding. I want to increase the difficulty of the game. This line was originally not included in the script, but at this point, Guan Chen's addition was not abrupt, even making people goosebumps, and infinite imagination unfolded in his mind. Feeling everything in the camera, he can get out of trouble in the Easter egg and lay the groundwork for the next sequel. Unfortunately, even if the performance ends here, it's considered finished. Guan Chen lowered his head again, and the corners of his mouth grinned wildly to both sides, silently revealing a playful smile. His body swayed as if playing a simple game. The performance is over. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Walking Eye. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. Walking Eye. Xing Yan's sitting posture had already changed since the beginning of Guan Chen's performance. After Guan Chen's performance, the whole room fell silent. The excuse of playing casually or not taking it seriously often comes from people who are arrogant, afraid of failure, and unwilling to accept reality. Xiaoxiong just explained to Guan Chen in this way. Although everyone was prepared and knew that Guan Chen would come up with real skills next, it didn't take it too seriously. However, no one expected that when Guan Chen became serious, he could come up with such a performance. Xing Yan fell silent and tapped his notebook with a ballpoint pen, making a clicking sound. He has been attending performance training classes for so many years, and Guan Chen is not the first one who wants to refund his tuition. Among those who wanted to drop out of school, except for those who urgently needed money such as family members passing away, sudden illness, and large gambling debts, most of them were persuaded by him for various reasons. Some are lured for profit, with heavy promises, saying that after learning for many days, there is a chance to be recommended to a well-known company's agent. Some people are moved by emotions, using their skills to sell out, and the scene becomes so intense that even the other party feels embarrassed to ask for money. Proficient in how to prescribe the right medicine. Xing Yan remembers the scene on the day Guan Chen came to register. Guan Chen came up and asked what he could learn here. If he couldn't learn anything, could he refund the money? Very rebellious. Xing Yan has seen so many arrogant young people. A frog at the bottom of a well with little ability is often the easiest to become arrogant. But there is no reason to push out the business when it comes to your doorstep. He asked Guan Chen, "What do you think performance is?" This is actually a difficult question. Guan Chen's answer was still wildly wild, saying, "A performance is just playing the role of a god." Xing Yan really wants to see how Guan Chen reflects this sentence through his performance. However, in the first class, Guan Chen didn't come, and in the second class, he wanted to leave. He even used his poor performance as an excuse to get sick and didn't know what was going on. It's against the rules to talk about refunds if you can't learn anything well. You want to leave without even attending this class. Xing Yan knew very well that in order to persuade such arrogant people, the only way was to persuade them professionally and make Guan Chen personally feel that performing is not something that can be easily practiced alone at home, just by practicing things. Only in this way can he willingly leave the money here. He criticized and scolded Guan Chen, but in fact, it was all a form of teaching aimed at creating emotional connection between the character and the actor. As for whether this teaching method is appropriate, Xing Yan can only say that the actor's ability to withstand pressure is also an important part. The director of the set often scolds people more excessively, and there are many unpleasant things to say. If it's so easy to break down, it may not be suitable for this profession. After guiding Guan Chen, he had already planned to welcome his grateful gaze after his performance. However, what was unexpected was that Guan Chen not only did not use what he taught at all, but also caused such an unexpected situation. It's really his mother amazing. Xing Yan felt that everyone's attention was focused on him, wanting to see how he commented on Guan Chen's performance. After pondering for a while, he clicked on the notebook with his pen, but instead of giving a comment, he demanded. Do it again. Perform it again. Guan Chen didn't respond much to this request. Because his current thoughts are no longer on Xing Yan. The 5 minutes just now seemed like a flash to him, and he hadn't even figured out what it felt like. He imitated the famous movie character from his previous life, the Joker in The Dark Knight. He has watched this movie over and over again, and he remembers most of the scenes. However, his physical instincts were warning him that if he imitated frame by frame and second by second, it would only backfire in the end. So he just constructed a vague feeling in his heart, allowing his body's instincts to interpret that state, while consciously reciting the lines of the world's weak dawn. Remembering this feeling was like having a lucid dream, in which he held on to a flame, holding it together while walking on a tightrope. After finishing a performance, although there was not much physical activity, Guan Chen was as tired as fighting 10 rounds of boxing. When have you been so amazing? Little Bear ran over and exclaimed softly, wanting to pat Guan Chen's shoulder. However, seeing Guan Chen's pale face, he quickly asked, "What's wrong with you? Are you sick?" "It's okay." Although Guan Chen was tired, his spirit was very excited. Is this a performance? It's like mastering a certain switch, and as soon as the switch is turned on, he becomes another person. Guan Chen wanted to see if this switch was disposable. Before the feeling disappeared, he said to Little Bear, "Let's do it again." Xiao Xiong looked at Guan Chen's fanatical gaze, smiled, nodded, and ran back to the other side of the stage to prepare. Guan Chen stood in the cage and began to think about which character to summon in his previous life. When it comes to interrogation, anti-guest oriented, and classic villain, there seems to be another well-known character. Hannibal from The Silent Lamb came to mind in Guan Chen's mind. Duh. Guan Chen snapped his fingers at the little bear, indicating that it was time to start. Everyone in the room held their breath and focused, eagerly anticipating and watching with their own thoughts. Then they saw that Guan Chen, who was staying in the prison, did not sit on the ground this time. Instead, his hands were neatly placed on both sides of his thighs, standing tall and straight, with a shoulder and neck angle that was neither elegant nor tense. Guan Chen's hair was not wet and draped over his scalp like in the previous section, but instead he brushed it behind his head with his hand, not behind his ears. Her delicate features were revealed. As the little bear approached the cage, Guan Chen stared deeply at the bear, with a slight smile in his eyes. It's like a hospitable host waiting here early, ready to welcome guests. "Oh, you're here." Guan Chen's greeting was full of gentleness and grace from the upper class. Even though he was in a state of embarrassment, wearing inappropriate sportswear, having disheveled long hair, and being trapped in a cage, he felt like a true destitute aristocrat and struggling artist. But everyone feels that something is vaguely wrong. Because Guan Chen stood straight, his whole body was filled with an indescribable sense of danger. Wearing sportswear that is zippered up to the top, it feels like a mental hospital uniform in a daze. "Don't be so far away from me, I won't eat you again." The angle of Guan Chen's smile and the gentle curve of his eyes were perfect, as if they had been measured 1,000 times, not much, not much. It feels like nothing in this world can change his heart rate. The calmness and composure have reached a strange level. The little bear walked up to the front of the cage and curiously looked at Guan Chen, who was displaying his new appearance. Is this an elegant assassin or a gentleman criminal? As people approach death, they reveal their true selves. Guan Chen's tone is rhythmic and elegant, as if reciting poetry. He asks Little Bear with concern, "I've killed so many of your friends, and to some extent, I know your friends better than you do. Do you want to know who the real cowards are among them? Guan Chen's eyes were filled with compassion. It looks like he's a kind-hearted person trying to save the lost lamb. Xiaoxiong really likes Guan Chen's performance this time and thinks she can perform the trick well with peace of mind. The neurotic performance of Guan Chen just now was very dangerous at first glance. Even if she knew it was acting, she didn't dare to get too close. She always felt that in the next second, for the sake of dramatic effect, Guan Chen would really use some kind of weapon to stab her. If it weren't for her mature and steady demeanor, she would have been almost unable to finish her lines just now. This time is great, the refined criminal this time is much gentler. Little Bear paced around Guan Chen and said, "What's the difference between laughing and crying? It's all bad luck. I really want to know how you evaluate yourself. How do you feel about your luck?" Little Bear said this and turned his head abruptly, trying to highlight the authority and momentum of the interrogator. But when she turned her head, she saw a pair of eyes that Guan Chen couldn't retract in time. Hiss. At this glance, her hair stood on end all over her body. Because she saw an undisclosed desire in Guan Chen's eyes. It's not the usual desire that criminals cannot release after being locked up in prison, but the appetite. The kind of appetite that wild animals haven't eaten for a long time have when they see beautiful food. He wants to eat me. The little bear was scared and took several steps back. Looking at Guan Chen again, the dangerous gaze was gone. He still stood straight, without any unnecessary movements, just looking at the little bear retreating step by step with a pitiful gaze. This time, little bear no longer felt that Guan Chen's gaze was kind and gentlemanly. She felt that Guan Chen's gaze at her was like a hungry foodie scrutinizing the food on the chopping board. Your luck is. Little Bear's heart pounded and he couldn't speak his lines. Guan Chen kindly took a step back, asking the other party not to be nervous. The little bear stuttered and continued, "Is your luck good or bad? You are currently in prison and will soon face 300 years in prison. What do you think of your luck?" Guan Chen suddenly left the script and improvised the lyrics. What? You came here from a small police station, won several competitions, and solved several cases, but no one really cares about you. Do you want to know how your friends think of you? Oh, yes, I don't say you guessed it, maybe you've heard more than I know. You've worked hard to prove yourself, not dating, not attending gatherings, and working hard to build a hard shell. You feel inferior for your accent and taste. Why don't you look at yourself with your keen insight? Think carefully, are you really one of them? Do you really care about them? Are you really angry about their death? Guan Chen looked at the little bear pitifully. It's really pitiful. The little bear stood in the same place, lost in thought and unable to say anything, as his guard was being heavily pierced. Off stage, all right, that's it, Xing Yan said and stopped the performance. The crowd who held their breath finally surfaced and gasped for breath. The last line is too harsh. It's also very tough. Is it his mother to conspire against the interrogator? The so-called ordinary person refers to a person whose words and actions are easily predictable. The villainous criminal in Dawn of Weakness, despite killing many people and committing many crimes, still falls within the category of ordinary people. Xing Yan has been working in the film and television industry for decades and has read thousands of scripts. He can basically guess how the villain of a movie will appear in a movie. And Guan Chen's two performances did not portray ordinary criminals belonging to ordinary people. It can be said that Guan Chen's performance has deviated from the text and is a very failed performance. Put it on the set, this situation will be hated by others. But from a performance perspective, Guan Chen's performance is truly stunning. It's like flaunting one's talents without any hesitation. Just now I watched Guan Chen's performance, one sitting cross-legged and the other standing straight, both of which were the opening moments that grabbed the audience's eyes and heart from the beginning. They were all unheard of and unseen appearances. The setting of characters is even rarer. The previous time was portraying the opposite of God, a devil who enjoys evil. The next time was to play the role of God himself. No one is that ordinary and superficial serial killer. The complexity and literary depth of the two characters portrayed by Guan Chen are truly shocking. What is even more shocking is that Guan Chen did indeed perform a persuasive performance. This is pure talent. And talent is something that cannot be justified. Before watching these two performances, Xing Yan never expected to see such a thing at all. Based on his years of acting experience, Guan Chen's two characters with vastly different styles were not fully portrayed, and today he only played the tip of the iceberg. Although Guan Chen's performance is not mature and there is still a lot of room for improvement, Xing Yan can be certain that in the future, if Guan Chen encounters the right team and opportunities, with time, two classic villains will be added to the history of film. He really wants to ask how Guan Chen was able to play these roles while staying at home, what he learned after 3 years of self-study. But now, at this moment, Xing Yan just wants to applaud. Pop, pop, pop. Xing Yan put down his notebook that recorded the students' homework and began applauding. Seeing that Xing Yan didn't comment but applauded directly, the students also applauded enthusiastically. Although the students may not think deeply, they at least know that it is definitely not something they can perform. In the movies and TV dramas they have watched, they have never seen such a criminal. For such criminals, they don't dislike them. On the contrary, they find them so charming that they can't see enough of them. They really want to see such characters on the big screen. At the same time, they were also deeply affected and gained a clearer understanding of the cruelty of talent. Looking at the crowd applauding in front of him, Guan Chen stood in the center of the stage, sweating profusely, as if the two previous performances had exhausted all his strength. He held his numb hands and felt the touch of reality gradually returning to him. Guan Chen pondered everything from the past 10 minutes in a daze. I want to apologize to you, I did misjudge today. After the applause stopped, Xing Yan's first sentence was to apologize to Guan Chen, his tone no longer being as harsh as before. Apologize to us. Little Bear reminded. Xing Yan ignored and continued, but I'm also lucky to have seen the most exciting performance I've ever seen this year. The little bear cautiously approached Guan Chen and found that his eyes were neither crazy nor pitiful. Finally, he dared to approach and complained, please remind me at least. Guan Chen grinned and said, I don't know what kind of performance it will be. Two people walked down the stage. Next, Xing Yan continues her class. And Guan Chen sat in his seat, still reminiscing about the feeling brought by his first performance, and only regained consciousness after class. After class, some students came specifically to say goodbye to Guan Chen and even wanted to exchange contact information with him. Guan Chen emerged from the encirclement and stared at the old man's back, preparing to discuss tuition fees with him. Why are you suddenly so powerful? Did you secretly find another training class to attend? Little Bear leapt over the crowd and grabbed Guan Chen's neck, almost twisting it off. Please introduce me too. Guan Chen repeatedly patted Little Bear's arm with a frequency of giving up and saying, there's no such training class, come down quickly. The little bear jumped down and asked with a smile, are you still coming to class during the day next week? Let's work together to complete the homework. After stepping off the stage, Guan Chen has been wandering around without listening to the homework assigned by Xing Yan. Let's talk about it again. Guan Chen didn't agree because according to the plan, after taking a class this time, he got his tuition back and didn't plan to come afterwards. Do you still want to drop out of school? Little Bear's tone was a bit low. The situation is inevitable. Without this money, many things cannot be done. Although the performance class just now was very fresh and interesting, his survival has become a problem. Cultivating interests and hobbies will be discussed later. The two of them walked out of the classroom, and there were several people in the hall waiting for Little Bear to go out for a dinner together. Their gaze occasionally glanced at Guan Chen, vaguely hoping that Guan Chen might also go with them. Guan Chen didn't even look over there. Xiaoxiong smiled and refused, saying that she was running out of time to work and would not eat with everyone anymore. The girls had no choice but to leave. "Are you still working?" Guan Chen asked. He thought Little Bear was the kind of stubborn wealthy woman who casually took out over 10,000 yuan to learn how to perform and play. "Isn't today the weekend? We little actors from ordinary families who don't even have any works have no holidays." "Amazing, come on." Guan Chen waved his hand and prepared to bid farewell to the Little Bear. Since there is no value in borrowing money, then he is not his friend. Xiaoxiong grabbed Guan Chen and said, "I called you several times last week, but I couldn't get through." Guan Chen, who couldn't leave, had to explain, "I dropped my phone." His predecessor's phone was likely dropped at the scene of the fire, and when he was discharged, he only had a wallet in his pocket. "What is your new number?" Little Bear took out his phone. "I haven't bought a new phone yet," Guan Chen replied. "Isn't it lying to me?" Guan Chen sneered and was too lazy to answer. "Time is running out, I have to go to work. I'll discuss the homework with you when the time comes." Little Bear ran downstairs in a fit of excitement. "I moved. Don't come." Guan Chen shouted to stop. The Little Bear left a silhouette for him. "I don't know if I heard it or not." Guan Chen searched along the corridor and finally found Xing Yan in the open office. "Submit the medical record." "Are you really dying?" Xing Yan was surprised. "Do you think I'm joking?" Guan Chen was dissatisfied. "If you don't have the money to recuperate, you might really die. So it's not an excuse." Xing Yan muttered and casually flipped through the medical record book, asking, "Are you really short of money?" "Very lacking." "What job are you doing now?" "No job." "What about part-time jobs?" "Not really." After a moment of contemplation, Xing Yan spoke up and said, "I can refund you a lot of the tuition fee." Guan Chen nodded in no hurry to be happy, as Xing Yan's tone clearly indicated that he still had the latter half of the sentence. "But you should continue to come to class in the future," Xing Yan returned the medical record to Guan Chen. "You can come back to class next week for free and teach you for free." Guan Chen was a bit surprised. When he openly shook off Xing Yan's face in class, he was mentally prepared that he couldn't recover his tuition fees. "I didn't expect that not only will my tuition be refunded, but I can also enroll for free now." Xing Yan said, "You have talent. When I said before that you couldn't be an actor, it was an angry remark to make you remember that criminals should try to suppress their impulses when faced with language provocation. If it makes you unhappy, I'll apologize to you again." Guan Chen shook his head and didn't take it to heart anymore. "Your two roles were very interesting, it's your talent. If you don't work in this field, it's a pity. If it's an ordinary actor, I wouldn't advise you like that. In the Huaxia Actors Association, 99% of actors cannot rely solely on performance to support themselves. For those who engage in art, talent is the most important factor. Those who lack talent are wasting their time on it, which is a waste. They are not all without strength, but in addition to strength, they also need luck. Actors cannot make big money as long as they perform well. What determines how far an actor can go in the end is always something beyond acting skills." Xing Yan said this and looked at Guan Chen seriously. "But you're different, you can earn money just by acting. So I'm planning to teach you and find opportunities to perform while taking you into the industry. Although I haven't produced any works for a long time, I still have some connections to use. Also, don't think that I do good deeds for free. In the future, if you become famous, I will use you as a sign for training classes. Consider this transaction." After sending off Guan Chen, who had received his tuition and said, "I'll consider it," Xing Yan sat on the sofa and breathed a deep sigh of relief. The earring guy sitting behind the counter listened attentively to the conversation between Xing Yan and Guan Chen just now. He walked over to clean the cups on the coffee table and sneered, "Who were you talking to just now?" "The 100th person. There are not so many, at most only the 10th. Xing Yan lifted his foot and avoided the broom, sighing, "Doing business is not easy. It's because you always casually waive tuition fees, that's why we're not doing well," said the earring guy with a displeased look at Xing Yan. Xing Yan knew he was wrong and did not speak back. He lowered his voice and said, "This time it may be true. Although that kid's skills are not strong enough, his performance is entirely based on instinct. He must have gone through a lot of detours by practicing alone behind closed doors. However, being able to practice at this level is already very good, and he is a capable person. Teaching such a student will not tarnish my reputation. In the future, when we become famous, we can earn it back 10 times or 100 times. You've said similar things 7 times before," the ear-nail brother sneered. "I've never looked at anything before. It's hilarious." "Well, this time it's true, I really didn't read it wrong. This sentence is relatively rare, but it has been said 3 times. This time it's really true." The next chapter, Chapter 8. Nodes has been blocked and is still being modified, end of this chapter. Chapter 8. Nodes. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8 Nodes. It seems that you are also so useless. Guan Chen patted his shoulder and decided to eat something good later to reward his body. I didn't expect that the body, which was originally seen as a burden, still had a hidden talent for performance. Guan Chen didn't understand what Xing Yan said about the talent of an actor, but he was very familiar with the feeling of focusing on what he was good at. In his previous life, he often used a swinging stick or a small knife to rush into the enemy's pile, take action, dodge, and be quick, accurate, and ruthless. Also walking on the tightrope, pouring all my heart and soul into it, feeling like time flies by in a flash. When I come back to my senses, there are no people around me who can stand except for him. The predecessor was definitely talented in performing. Performance is what this body excels at the most. A person without talent suddenly gets the roles of the Joker and Hannibal and asks him to imitate them, but he can't even imitate them. Guan Chen turned his head to look at the building with the sign of Xing Yan Performance Training Class, and his thoughts were somewhat complicated. I originally planned to take the tuition and leave, but now I suddenly have the opportunity to take courses for free. If I don't attend, I feel like I'm losing 12,000 yuan. Remembering the excitement of the recent performance, and asking my heart, it seems that I don't resist coming here again. Goo. His stomach burned a bit, and Guan Chen was shocked to feel that he had been hungry from morning until noon, exercising and performing, so he had to eat something. Choose the bakery you saw on the way when you arrived. Before entering the bakery, Guan Chen was still thinking about whether there would be European-style long stick bread that had been jokingly used as a weapon in his previous life. After entering, looking at the dazzling array of bread, I immediately had no intention of thinking about what was missing. There are desserts, dim sum, snacks, or as substitute meals to satisfy hunger. There are several types and shapes of bread, which are very similar to the gathering place of European, Chinese, and Japanese bread in the past. Guan Chen didn't know which ones were delicious or popular, so he stared at the most loyal customers to taste. Children. His taste is similar to that of children. Every time he saw a child pleading with an adult about what kind of bread he wanted to buy, Guan Chen would silently pick up a bit from behind and put it into the tray. After leaving the bakery, Guan Chen ate bread, drank milk, felt the warm stomach and heavy sum of money, and couldn't help but sigh. This feels like having a feeling of being human. All that one's gaze can see are novel scenery and novel people. Guan Chen felt that the magnificent new life in the foreign world had truly begun at this moment. Walking on the road, Guan Chen pondered how to spend 12,000 yuan. A mobile phone is definitely something to buy. Without a mobile phone, one cannot survive in this society. Just looking for a job, without a phone, without leaving a number, how could someone hire you? Moreover, without a mobile phone, safety cannot be guaranteed, and when in danger, one cannot shake people and call them brothers. No, no. Guan Chen reflected on himself in a timely manner. In this life, he strives to be a good person, and the first reaction to danger should be to call the police. The performance of the phone does not need to be too good, as long as it can make calls, access the internet, and has some basic shooting and recording functions. If encountering unfair scenes, he can record and extort. And then report to the police uncle. To be a good person, to be a good person, to be a good person. Guan Chen patted his head, urging himself to quickly change his mindset and accept the new setting. Looking up, Guan Chen saw an old man dressed in simple clothes sitting on a small stool pulling his arrow, with an enamel cup on the ground. It looks like it's performing arts. Behind the old man was a bustling road, and in front of him were hurried passers-by. Only a few people noticed the old man and were willing to linger for a moment. The tone of the arrow became more tragic and graceful, making the old man even more pitiful. Guan Chen couldn't appreciate the music, but after listening for a while, he almost burst into tears. This indicates that the elderly person's skills are extremely advanced and should be rewarded. Guan Chen believed that doing good deeds would be beneficial for getting used to being a good citizen, so he took out a few coins from his pocket to buy bread and threw them into the cup in front of the old man. For a moment, those who had stopped looked over one after another. Feeling the surprised gazes from everyone, Guan Chen felt as if something was about to float in his heart. Is this the feeling of being a good person? Not bad. Ah. The old man suddenly put down his arrow and exclaimed in surprise, holding a cup. Suna. In the dialect of Mo, suna is similar to lying trough, sometimes cursing, and sometimes used as a mood particle to express emotions. The old man should be very excited, right? Guan Chen was proud and prepared to say no politely. However, the old man looked up angrily at Guan Chen, and his movement of holding the cup in his hand was a bit too drastic, causing some liquid to spill from the cup onto the ground. Guan Chen was greatly surprised. Is there water? What's going on? Isn't it a cup for holding coins? Aren't you a beggar? Guan Chen looked at the glaring crowd around him and quickly turned around to leave. The old man stared at him, holding a water glass, cursing and trying to trouble Guan Chen, but fortunately he didn't run as fast as Guan Chen. After finally escaping from the dangerous place, Guan Chen propped up his knees and sighed repeatedly. The morning exercise was really a precautionary measure, and he immediately started using it. It seems that we can't stop exercising in the future. Guan Chen secretly encouraged himself. After preparing for the morning exercise plan, Guan Chen began to review the previous battle. In the past life, a considerable number of withered elderly people who sat by the roadside and lay out bowls and cups to sleep were organized beggars, with designated territories and activity areas. As for those who can play the arrow and harmonica, they may have some backbone, but they cannot escape the difficulties of life, so they need to come out to exchange their skills for money. In this world, when Guan Chen saw the elderly playing the piano, he instinctively thought that these elderly people also had some difficulties in their lives, and never expected that there would be elderly street performers like this. Ultimately, it is the difference between two worlds. Guan Chen nodded. In this world, China has even won football, and folk music and other things may have a very different status and situation from their previous lives. We need to find a place to go online. Guan Chen planned to update his common sense, so he stopped passers-by and asked if there was an internet cafe nearby. Ask one, it's not far ahead. Guan Chen couldn't bear to throw away the bread he had flattened while running away earlier, and walked towards the internet cafe while nibbling on it. Regarding internet cafes, Guan Chen is not unfamiliar at all. Internet cafes have a lot of their youth. For example, before debuting, many fights were fought with people in internet cafes. At the same time, internet cafes are a good place to borrow money, and underage students sneak in to surf. They usually have a lot of money in their pockets, and even if they rob them, they dare not tell adults. Unfortunately, after wandering around in high school, I never went to an internet cafe again. With the mood of reliving his youth, Guan Chen walked into this internet cafe in a different world. At first glance, it was discovered that there were no minors. It's really a pity. The hall is scattered with screens facing in pairs, standing at the counter, only a few screens can be seen. At this time, the attendance rate for lunch was about 70.8%, and the keyboard was cracking, creating a bustling scene. Guan Chen handed over his ID card, deposited 10 yuan, and then found a machine to sit down. As soon as he sat down, he immediately realized that the keyboard was different from what he was familiar with. Pinyin is still used, but the order of the letters is completely different from in his previous life. Guan Chen tried typing a few words, but it was very uncomfortable to use. He typed them one by one with each finger, like an elderly person. The college students nearby all looked over. Guan Chen glared displeased at the college student beside him, and the student immediately sat up straight. Guan Chen looked at the game that college students were playing. It was a Chinese-style and colorful online game, with dragons, phoenixes, and kunpeng. It was very similar to the money-scamming web game genre based on the classic of mountains and seas in previous lives, but in terms of graphics quality and style, it was completely different. Guan Chen's heart was itching, almost unable to resist joining the other party. But at least he still had some self-control. After remembering the name of the game, he turned his head to look at the screen in front of him and clicked on the web browser among several unfamiliar icons. The web page opens and a portal website pops up. Guan Chen was not in a hurry to search. He first clicked on a news website and looked at its content. Let's ignore advertisements, they are all unheard of brands. First, open the entertainment section that interests you the most. One of them is about the summary of the results of the Storm chart for a week. In it, an American named Business John, who unprecedentedly climbed to the 189th place on the Storm chart, with an English song. After looking at it for a while, Guan Chen analyzed and said, "What music chart is this Fongyan chart?" The music charts from my previous life were diverse, and there was no chart that everyone in the country believed in. Each music app has one, and the list is filled with people who haven't heard of it before. I have had it in my life. The next one is gossip. The newly crowned Golden Bull Award actress is suspected to be traveling with a mysterious man at the XX ski resort in Vladivostok, with affectionate behavior. Guan Chen noticed the two words, behind the scenes, and searched for Golden Bull Award, only to find that it is the most influential film Academy Award in China and even the world. It is comparable to previous Olympic awards. Since he found something related to movies, Guan Chen remembered his body's talent for acting, so he casually searched for himself to see if he had any works before. After entering his own name, he found that he was indeed an unknown person. Apart from finding a group of people called Guan Chen gathered in a Guan Chen bar and posting various posts with unclear meanings, I couldn't find anything else. This is good news. Guan Chen nodded and inputted Xing Yan again. Then I saw Xing Yan's deeds and resume. At the age of 21, he was nominated for the Golden Bull Award for his first work, and this old man is quite impressive. Guan Chen read the information in the entry and was somewhat surprised. However, the situation took a sharp turn and Xing Yan became famous at a young age. He, who should have been full of energy, quickly lost himself in the fame and fortune market, indulged in extravagance, and had frequent negative news. His projects were getting worse and worse. After blooming like fireworks, it quickly disappeared from the public's view. It has been more than 30 years since a single work was released. I thought this old man was so powerful. Guan Chen pursed his lips. Return to the news web page. Moving on to the fashion section, let's talk about the Red Winter Fashion Conference, which will be held in Hangzhou, one of the three major fashion capitals. This time, a young Italian designer will ambitiously enter the Chinese fashion industry with his works. This young Italian designer said that being able to showcase herself at the fashion event of the century-old brand, Red, was her childhood dream. Open the cultural section. Not long ago, the winner of this year's Chao Shuoqin Literature Award was a French poet. The sports sector. Football goes without saying, and matches from China League 1 to U14 level are taking place, with a very sound system. As for other sports such as basketball, volleyball, and badminton, they have also developed very well. Whether it is a high school league or a professional league, there is a group of supportive spectators. It's table tennis, defeating Germany and stopping in the quarterfinals. Guan Chen took a deep breath, as if seeing something magical. Are you still authentic Chinese people? Where are your genes? Having browsed through the news and gossip, Guan Chen began to truly search for the information he was most interested in. With 2 index fingers solemnly typing on the keyboard, searching for the map of China, as expected, it circled around. Guan Chen was stunned and watched for a while. Even if he was illiterate, he couldn't help but feel curious about history. Search history. But after searching, I don't know how to search. The so-called node is only known to him, and other Chinese people may only think it should be so powerful. Guan Chen had no choice but to start reading articles on the history of China from scratch, but looking at the serious wording and format of academic papers, feeling dizzy and sleepy, he had to change his direction. On a video website called Wudao, he found a set of children's preschool history science popularization animations. 5 minutes to take you to understand Chinese history. He put on his headphones and listened. The college student next to him glanced and was stunned. Big brother, looking at your clothes and appearance, you are also a senior otaku. In such a relaxed and enjoyable internet cafe, only you have this machine with a unique cartoon animation style, which will make the atmosphere very serious. Do you understand the rules or not? Guan Chen didn't pay attention to the stunned gaze of the silly college student beside him, listening to the class one by one. He listened in reverse, tracing the root cause. After several major events in modern times, when I heard fragments of Qing, I finally discovered the node here. History has taken a turn since then. There are deletions here. At the bottom right corner of the screen, there was a prompt indicating that there was enough time, and Guan Chen put down his earphones in a daze. Pick up the bread and walk out of the internet cafe. Looking at the sun above my head, I feel like smoking. But when I think about my weak body and fear of suffocating myself, I still forget about it. Walking on the street, Guan Chen felt a myriad of thoughts, but couldn't say anything, and there was no one to confide in. No one in this world can understand his feelings at this moment. If I were born in such a world, what kind of person would I become? How do I survive in this world? In this world, only one node can make China better. How many nodes do I need to become a good person? Guan Chen let himself go and silently walked forward. Passing through a mobile phone specialty store, I realized that I still have a phone to buy. The phone he wants to buy is of the same brand as Zhou Dao's phone in tonight, with a pattern of a cloud. After all, after a simple review, it feels pretty good. Unfortunately, the internet speed of mobile phones here is similar to the 2G and 3G era in the past, and many software and programs have not yet appeared. I spent over 2,000 yuan to buy one, selected a good number, and prepared a package. Guan Chen followed the way he came and took the subway back home. Upon entering the room, he lay down on the bed, tossing and turning. In his previous life, he knew very well that he was walking on a path that didn't end well, and there was no light at the end of the road, so he didn't even dare to think about the life after washing his hands. In this world, suddenly faced with an immensely vast world, facing millions of paths, each one looking bright and bright, let him choose, he was suddenly confused. I really can't think of what Guan Chen will look like in the future, so why not think about it? He jumped out of bed, spread out a piece of paper in the low table, and wrote a few words crookedly on the top. 100 things that must be done in life. Since he can't figure out what kind of person he wants to become for the time being, Guan Chen plans to start from a young age and first think about what he wants to do. What is there that I really wanted to do in my previous life, but couldn't do it all along? After thinking for a moment, Guan Chen carefully wrote on the paper. 1. Alarm. Not bad. Guan Chen looked at these 2 words with satisfaction. I must be a taxpayer in this life and experience the feeling of being protected by the regulations. Guan Chen is at his desk, continuing to write the second must-do task. 2. Watch a movie. Movies are his school, and his personality is almost mainly shaped by movies. In this life, it is natural to identify and judge the quality of movies that have been awarded the inverted Oscars award. 3. With a pause in his pen, Guan Chen couldn't move as he wrote the third point with a bewildered expression on his face. Even if he scratched his head with a pen cap, he couldn't remember what he wanted to do. Guan Chen was deeply hit and fell back onto the bed, secretly blaming himself for being such a waste, not even knowing what he wanted to do. At this moment, Guan Chen really envied his predecessor. Being able to clarify one's own goals, regardless of whether it can be achieved or not, there is at least one ideal thing to pursue. Guan Chen leaned aside and looked at the walls filled with books. Although he verbally cursed his predecessor, the otaku, very harshly, he felt inferior in the face of such a scholar. Only by belittling such a person can he avoid suddenly realizing his insignificance. Moreover, his predecessor saved so many people before his death. Although Guan Chen felt foolish to sacrifice his life for a stranger, he also admitted in his heart that someone like his predecessor could be called a good person. Recalling Xing Yan's praise for his physical performance talent during the day today, Guan Chen felt a bit regretful for his predecessor. But perhaps his predecessor didn't regret it, so he didn't know if his regret was unnecessary. Guan Chen's gaze fell on the 5 performance notes he had found last night on the low table, and suddenly something came to his mind. Perhaps he slowly moved out of bed and picked up a pen in front of the low table. After pondering for a long time, I finally wrote the third point stroke by stroke. 3. Try to finish a work. This is actually the predecessor of something that must be done in life. At present, Guan Chen really didn't know how to move forward, so he thought of walking along the path he had walked before. He wants to try and see if he can become the same person as his predecessor. A smart person. A good person. A person who finds their ideals and is fully committed. He remembered the feeling of performing on stage this morning and felt that he didn't reject the performance. But I can't say I like it either. However, in any case, there is no need to pay the tuition for the performance class. If you really don't like it or have other things you want to do, you can just give up on it. Guan Chen effortlessly put down his pen, sat cross-legged, and picked up the notebook of The First Step to Becoming an Actor, as if holding up the secret script, ready to study hard. Although the notebook is a selection of roast, since the predecessor can roast, it means that the predecessor has read all these things. If he wants to follow the footsteps of his predecessor, he must also read the books and movies mentioned. Guan Chen opened the first page and compared it to the book titles inside. He stood up and searched around on the bookshelf. I finally found a few books, but not entirely. Guan Chen guessed that some books may have been too bad and were thrown away by their predecessors after reading them. Let's take a look at what we have first. Guan Chen took a few deep breaths and solemnly picked up a book called The Power of Performance. Feeling as nervous as dismantling a bomb. Turning to the first page, there is publication information, followed by handwritten dates. My predecessor finished reading this book 3 years ago. Guan Chen continued to flip back. Skip the preface, recommendations, and table of contents, and start reading the main text directly. Chapter 1. 12 Tools for Actors. 1. Overall objective. What does your character most want? 2. Segmentation objectives. Wait. When Guan Chen saw the second sentence, he suddenly realized that he didn't remember what the first sentence said. Take another look. 1. Overall goal. What does your character most want in life? Find your character. Wait a minute. Guan Chen suddenly felt uncomfortable sitting on the ground, so he carried a book to the bed. Well, it's comfortable now, let's continue. 1. Overall goal. Your character. Hooking. Guan Chen fell asleep. This chapter has been blocked and some content has been deleted. Roughly speaking, the strength of China in this world is strong, and the international situation is weak in the East and West. The notation of the era began from Qinitong. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Reasons for performance. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. Reasons for performance. When preparing to go out in the morning, Guan Chen once again put on the gray sportswear. This almost became his suit. For otaku who squat at home, their sportswear must be gray. Gray is a neutral color that doesn't attract attention, has no subjective color, and no attitude. Ashes rise like a lazy cloud, neither rain, neither rising nor falling. It's a great camouflage color. For Guan Chen, gray is a color that transitions from black to white, with a profound meaning and a sense of ceremony when worn. Can remind him that a new life has begun. Of course, if 2 transactions are made in 2 consecutive days, this set is likely to have a lucky bonus. Guan Chen is preparing to wear it for another day and see if there will be any gains. After hiding the remaining 10,000 yuan in cash in a dozen books and on the ceiling of the toilet, and putting a strand of hair between the door and window sill, Guan Chen finally picked up the garbage bag and walked out with peace of mind. Due to using my phone to search for information online late last night, I woke up much later this morning than yesterday. When he walked in the corridor, there were already sounds of life around him. Several Filipino-looking women, carrying things on their backs, loudly order their children to do their homework well and not watch TV before going out. A European and American-looking young man yawned and stepped onto an electric bike. He was wearing a delivery suit and another delivery platform helmet, and rode away with a loud roar. A grandma smiled and showed her new rubber gloves to her companions, then walked downstairs chatting and laughing. Even on weekends, for some people, holidays do not exist. Everyone glanced at him without greeting him. Guan Chen walked among them, appearing somewhat out of place, but he knew he was actually no different from these people. They are all foreigners who have left their hometowns and want to start a new life. Guan Chen walked downstairs with garbage bags in his hands, and there was a boy from an unknown country who was also throwing garbage. Seeing Guan Chen wanting to throw the garbage into a bucket, the young man quickly jumped up and stopped. Garbage needs to be sorted. Long-winded. Guan Chen threw the garbage into the bucket like shooting. If garbage is not sorted, the garbage truck won't collect it, the young man said in an accented Huaxia dialect. By then, there will be piles of garbage everywhere again. The stench is black in the sky. It's foul-smelling. Guan Chen felt happy and found a sense of superiority in terms of knowledge reserves. But with a pile of unfinished garbage bags at home, Guan Chen felt a headache. I didn't know how to sort garbage in my previous life, but in this life, I won't know how to sort garbage. No wonder my predecessor would rather dump garbage at home than throw it away when buying alcohol. Guan Chen said to the boy, I still have some garbage at home. Here's 10 yuan for you. Come and help me sort it this afternoon. The young man immediately lifted his spirits and said that he was best at garbage sorting. He sorted all the garbage at home. Now let's give it a try and see your skills. Guan Chen turned around and left, leaving behind the young man who happily sorted the garbage. Looking back on the positive and hard-working adults and children he had just seen, Guan Chen pondered whether he should also find some serious part-time jobs as soon as possible. According to the nutritional recipe he has set for himself, along with rent, water, electricity, and occasional visits to internet cafes to watch movies, there are still many places where money needs to be spent. And its predecessor, like Little Bear, relied on working to accumulate tuition fees, looking very passionate and proactive. Guan Chen also wants to give it a try and see how it feels to spend his hard-earned money on things he is interested in. When Guan Chen slowly ran to the park he had visited yesterday, his body was already very hot. Guan Chen adjusted his breathing while observing the surroundings. The child catching the bus did not appear. I don't know if it's because I don't have extra classes on Sunday or because I've already boarded the car. It's a pity that we can't compete in the previous speed race. Guan Chen has made up his mind to come over at this time tomorrow. Slowly exhaling, Guan Chen began to exercise. Speed, strength, flexibility, endurance, agility. Let's start with speed. Sprint for 100 meters, jog for 100 meters, sprint again, jog again, and repeat the cycle. Mainly improving anaerobic endurance. Nearly 2 hours have passed, it's almost noon. Guan Chen finished his exercise intermittently, his body feeling a bit floating, but he didn't feel like he couldn't walk. I tested my physical fitness yesterday and Guan Chen is very clear about where the limits of my body lie. Being too anxious can actually harm oneself, just follow the routine. For other reaction speed exercises, it is necessary to buy boxing balls as an aid. Guan Chen walked slowly to the center of the park. There are many sports venues there. There are basketball courts, badminton courts, as well as small 5-a-side football fields. In addition, there are also skateboarding and roller skating venues. Some citizens are playing inside the venue, including adults who don't have to work overtime or sleep on Sundays, as well as groups of teenagers and children forming cliques. Guan Chen looked around and finally touched the other side of the football field. There are a few children playing football on the field, with both offense and defense, very organized, not the kind of Wu Yang chasing the ball to join the fun. There are also some adults watching from the side, occasionally applauding and cheering for the wonderful performances of certain children. TSK 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 TSK. Guan Chen exclaimed. Despite knowing that football is thriving in China, almost every second-tier city has professional football clubs. But when he truly saw the rich football atmosphere, he still felt shocked. After looking for a while, Guan Chen was ready to leave. Suddenly, he noticed a child far away from the crowd by the side of the field. The cheers and shouts of the crowd seemed to have nothing to do with him. He was alone, head down, bouncing the ball. Guan Chen has good eyesight and immediately recognizes him as the little ghost who brought people to trouble him the night before yesterday. So it's your kid. Guan Chen quietly walked around and walked over. Although the duo of tonight brought by the child facilitated a deal. But when the child slipped away, he twisted his foot in embarrassment. This revenge cannot be avoided. Guan Chen lurked over and patted the child's shoulder, with a deliberately vengeful expression on his face, ready to startle the other person. As a result, the child glanced back at him and continued to tilt the ball with his head down. Guan Chen stared at the fist clenched by the other party due to nervousness, knowing that they recognized him. Guan Chen shouted, "Oh," and the child's ball immediately fell off. Guan Chen laughed heartily and then said, "With so many people here and everyone watching, how dare I do anything bad?" The child believed and continued to toss the ball with a pout. Guan Chen pointed to the lively and cheerful stadium in the distance and asked, "Why don't you go play with them?" The child said, "They all refuse to play with me." "Why?" Guan Chen became interested. "I am a transfer student," the child said in a muffled tone. When Guan Chen was studying on his own, when others didn't like him, he fought back. But this is obviously not suitable for teaching children. Guan Chen thought for a moment and said, if it were his predecessor, what would he do now and how would he comfort the isolated child? "Are you having an excess of self-awareness?" said Guan Chen. The child was stunned for a moment, although he couldn't understand what excessive self-awareness meant, he always felt very uncomfortable. Guan Chen recalled Xing Yan's statement about excessive self-awareness in class yesterday. "I attended a class yesterday, and the teacher inside said that sometimes a person thinks and thinks, but in reality, others don't care. What does it mean? That means you don't have to think too much. Guan Chen pointed to the court in front of him. You go try it. Tell them that you want to play with them. Can you join in too? The child is a bit hesitant. Go quickly, or I'll beat you up, said Guan Chen. The child had no choice but to slowly walk towards the court, call out to the nearest one, and ask, "Can I also?" The other party hastily dropped at no and turned to continue happily chasing and playing football. The child walked back with a dull gaze. You're really isolated, ha ha ha. Guan Chen waved his hand as if he was ready to leave. Then there's nothing we can do. Come on, live strong alone. If my predecessor was here, I would say the same thing, right? Guan Chen patted his shoulder with satisfaction, feeling that he had understood his predecessor's thoughts. It's really good. I'm one step closer to my predecessor, that is, I'm one step closer to being a good person. It's not bad. The child almost kicked the ball towards Guan Chen's head. What kind of adults are you? After walking several tens of meters, Guan Chen turned around and saw the child still bouncing the ball alone. Guan Chen looked for a while, sighed, and walked towards the child again. What's your name? Guan Chen approached and asked. The child looked at Guan Chen, who had gone back and forth, with a look in his eyes, and replied, Wu Yan. I do a good deed every day, so I'll play with you for a while. Remember to treat me to food later. Wu Yan heard what the other party said well, but he always felt that Guan Chen was avenging the last time he extorted a meal but failed. Hurry up, hurry up. Guan Chen snatched the ball and threw it to the ground, stumbling and bouncing the ball, bouncing and flying. Wu Yan couldn't bear to watch anymore and suggested playing pass with Guan Chen. Guan Chen's football skills are very poor, and he doesn't know where the club will be kicked, causing Wu Yan to often have to run around. The two of you come and I pass the ball to the ground, while also chatting. What kind of work do you do? I am an actor. Have you ever acted anything? Not yet. What, isn't this just a jobless wanderer? Guan Chen neither affirmed nor denied. If adults remain silent, it basically indicates that the child's opinion is correct. You little devil. You're not cute. Guan Chen kicked the ball high and high. Wu Yan didn't panic either and walked to the landing point of the ball. When the ball fell, he reached out to catch it, swung it, and the football gently stopped on the grass in front of him. The whole process was like a drop of water melting into a basin filled with water. A pair of short legs controlled the ball, and the ball seemed as agile as consciousness. He is much more powerful than the children on the field. Guan Chen watched from the side, guessing that this might be the reason why those children refused to play with Wu Yan. Is it a bit impressive? Are you from the school team? Guan Chen was surprised. Wu Yan replied in a muffled tone. Wu Yan was a football special recruit who transferred from another city to Magic City. It's really not easy, Guan Chen said. There should be many people in this country who want to become professional players, right? You have determined your path for the next few decades so early. If you find out that even if you enter school, you are not the first, even if you win first, you are not the first in the city, and even if you are the first in the city, you may not be able to become a professional player. At that time, you won't regret it. I don't know. Why? Guan Chen laughed, isn't it because of a dream? Wu Yan shook his head and said, I don't know what a dream is. He sorted his thoughts and continued, I only know that I like to see my opponents being swayed by me. I am often bullied in my hometown school, and I dare not tell my parents that they are too busy and sometimes argue. I dare not tell them. But it's different on the field. Those people who bully me and are older than me, they can't catch up with me, can't touch my ball, and even fall. Seeing their pitiful and embarrassed appearance, I think, if I can keep playing football, that would be great. Guan Chen stopped the ball and looked at Wu Yan seriously. You are also a very talented person, Guan Chen said admiringly. You are worth learning from. Is everything okay? Wu Yan became shy. You can be my little brother. Can you be your little brother without treating you to eat? No way. Guan Chen finished the grilled sausage invited by Wu Yan, and then invited Wu Yan to have noodles at a nearby noodle restaurant. After finishing his meal, he arranged to have Wu Yan teach him how to play football next weekend, and Guan Chen gained his first friend in the world. I also received my first little brother. He strolled on the road, bought sports equipment such as jump rope and grip, and then prepared to go home. When I got home, I unexpectedly found someone waiting at his doorstep. You're coming back so slowly, Little Bear picked up the bag in his hand. I bought a delicious cake specifically, and I originally wanted to eat it with you. It's okay, I can still eat. Guan Chen thought the little bear looked silly, but in fact, he was quite good at being human. By the way, did your tuition fee come back later? Little Bear asked. I'm coming back. Guan Chen looked down at the crack in the door and found that his hair was still in its original position. So you're not acting anymore. Little Bear dragged his voice, his tone full of regret. Not really, Guan Chen opened the door, I will still attend class. Recalling Wu Yan's pursuit of football, Guan Chen felt that his pursuit of the goal of performance was more specific. I want to try watching performances. See if I can find the reason why I like acting. What if we can't find it? Then I'll become an idol. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Homework, thanks to Alliance Leader Yitian. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10 Homework, thanks to Alliance Leader Yitian. Whether the relationship between his predecessor and Xiong Yu was good or bad, Guan Chen never quite understood. Speaking of a good relationship, the other party has a clear understanding of their predecessor's level of love for performance, and they trust their predecessor immensely. When faced with Xing Yan's insult, they are willing to advance and retreat together. Ordinary friends cannot achieve this level. But there are also strange places. Xiaoxiong said she joined the performance class because of the recommendation from her predecessor. So Guan Chen guessed that their relationship was definitely not good. Otherwise, with Little Bear's performance level, her predecessor would only recommend her to Xing Yan with the idea of, since she has a lot of money, let her taste the feeling of throwing it into the water. However, after meeting football boy Wu Yan, Guan Chen put aside his contempt. People's love for certain things is not always driven by utilitarianism. Even if one cannot achieve great success in a certain field, as long as value is discovered, oneself shines, and oneself is complete, it is worth doing. Wu Yan likes football because he feels free on the field. Perhaps my predecessor was moved by Little Bear's love for acting, so I recommended him to a performance class. Have I ever told you why I want to be an actor? Guan Chen brought a bottle of mineral water to Little Bear. Although the room has not been thoroughly cleaned up yet, it is not as difficult to entertain guests as it was 2 days ago. After the Little Bear entered the house, he curiously looked around and said, yes. She indeed knows. Little Bear said, you said many actors are acting like shit and can't stand it. You can do it yourself. Guan Chen's body shook for a moment. Lowering his head, he glanced at the first, second, third, fourth, and fifth steps to becoming an actor on his thigh. I truly deserve to be you. Guan Chen quietly covered them with clothes and asked, and you, why do you want to be an actor? Because you said I have talent, Little Bear chuckled. Girl, you have been deceived. Guan Chen has now confirmed that the relationship between Little Bear and its predecessor may not be very good. Guan Chen didn't know if to say it or not, it was just 2 classes, and Xing Yan seemed to have given up on her. Why did you suddenly ask me this? Little Bear was puzzled. I am conducting a survey to gather reasons why people do things they enjoy. Guan Chen opened the cake brought by Little Bear and felt that he always fell asleep after reading for a while. It should be because his body's sugar intake was not enough. After eating the cake today, he must read more pages tonight. Like all first-time guests entering the room, Little Bear sat down and kept glancing at the bookshelves across the entire walls. "How many times have you been here?" Guan Chen asked her. "I came here once in 2 or 3 years, but you didn't even let me in. So, to be precise, today is the first time." Little Bear turned around and looked at Guan Chen. "I thought you would drive me back today." "Probably because I am a waste in terms of living ability and don't want anyone to see that side," said Guan Chen. Little Bear glanced at Guan Chen in surprise. If a person criticizes and disdains all things in the world, you can consider them to be cynical. But if he criticizes the object of contempt, including himself, it's a bit difficult to define. "Are you really going to die?" Little Bear looked at Guan Chen with a sad expression. "Is this just a good way to say that a person is about to die?" What? Guan Chen frowned and felt a bit confused. "Hey, did you also express your inner thoughts?" "Sick, yesterday you said you were sick and wanted to take care of yourself, and you also said you were about to die." "These are 2 sentences," Guan Chen explained. "The disease I was born with is called poor disease, and almost dying refers to being almost starving at that time." "You're a person." Little Bear couldn't help but know that she had been fooled. She glared angrily at Guan Chen and said, "I'm so lucky I bought such a delicious cake to visit the doctor." Guan Chen wolfed down the cake with a whimper, accelerating his pace of eating. The cake brought by Little Bear is made of strawberry layers, and the packaging and production look very exquisite. If Guan Chen had been seen eating such little girl food in his previous life, he would have been ridiculed by his peers. But now eating without any burden, he was secretly angry. Why couldn't he have eaten such delicious food earlier? "Since you have no health problems and are ready to continue studying, let's talk about next week's homework." Little Bear closed his hands and looked at Guan Chen excitedly. Guan Chen suddenly felt the cake in his mouth tasteless, and his expression became visibly gloomy. "Homework." He reflexively twitched in his stomach when he heard the word homework, feeling disgusted. "Don't be like that," Little Bear laughed, feeling like he had been empathized with the feeling of being a scumbag. However, a top student like Guan Chen who was admitted to Yunnan University could never be a scumbag. She thought that Guan Chen had developed an aversion to homework due to Xing Yan's comments in the previous class, so she quickly persuaded him. "Teacher Xing said we are wild roaders, learning while acting and watching others' performances is the quickest way to improve. Your performance in the last class was very impressive." The expression on Guan Chen's face did not change much. He actually knows that his strength is limited. He released the Joker and Hannibal from his memory last time, but that doesn't mean he can handle these 2 characters from now on. For example, if he had to play the role of a clown eating or Hannibal washing dishes that were not shown in movies, Guan Chen wouldn't be able to do it. These complex and classic characters were ultimately not constructed by him. Without understanding the internal logic that supports their actions, they can only clumsily learn appearances and cannot learn gods. Even if he wants to imitate a character and recreate it in his memory, he can only encounter specific scenes and lines to exert some effect. It's time to test his true level in an unexpected scenario. At present, Guan Chen knows how much his true level is. This body has a great talent, but how much he can unleash it depends purely on how much he has in his mind. Taking a sneak glance at the book by the bedside that seemed to remain on the first page forever, Guan Chen felt that he still had a long way to go. What is homework? Guan Chen rubbed his face and cheered up. Play a comedy. Do you still need acting? Just go up and say a few words. Of course, choose one from existing film and television works and imitate the plot. Little Bear's fist hit Guan Chen's arm. Guan Chen quickly took the opportunity to exercise his dodge ability, thinking that if he had the Little Bear accompany him for a while every day, he might have saved a lot of money. Little Bear's fist missed several times, but she didn't pursue him. After all, she didn't really want to kill Guan Chen. "You've become too lively, haven't you?" Little Bear looked at Guan Chen, his gaze fixed on his head for a long time. "Have you really met the discharge criteria?" Guan Chen was taken aback and quietly sat down. Even Little Bear felt that he had undergone significant changes before and after, let alone other people familiar with his predecessor. "Isn't this nonsense?" Guan Chen took out a pen and paper and urged Little Bear, "Don't talk about all this for now. Time and space." "Oh, that's right, that's right." Little Bear looked at the time and felt like there wasn't enough time. "In another hour, I'm going to work. Why don't we just forget about today and come back next time?" Guan Chen looked at the cake on the table that was almost eaten, hoping that Little Bear would bring some delicious food next time he came. "No, this hour is enough to do a lot of things." Little Bear showed the dignity of a disciplinary committee member and urged Guan Chen not to delay everything. "An extra hour of preparation will make our homework better." "You're right," Guan Chen nodded and sighed regretfully. Xiaoxiong was very satisfied with Guan Chen's attitude. She took out her phone, flipped out her notebook, and said, "Based on your performance level, I have selected many comedy passages, each one is classic. We will definitely shock everyone again when the time comes." Guan Chen has never watched any of these movies and doesn't know which character to play. If it doesn't match, he doesn't have the confidence to challenge the classics of another world based on his own level. After listening to a few scenes and lines, he quickly dissuaded, "Wait a minute." The Little Bear stopped to look at him. Guan Chen said solemnly, "Have you ever thought about choosing a classic? What would you do?" "What should I do? What should I do? I will overshadow your popularity." "Just like in the last class, you don't think you acted very well, do you?" Fortunately, Little Bear's cognitive level was still preserved. She pouted and defended, "Isn't it because I wasn't prepared?" Guan Chen closed his eyes in pain and raised a hand, "No need to say anything more. We are partners, good brothers who advance and retreat together. I can't stand out alone and let you be a companion." The Little Bear's eyes sparkled and he was deeply moved. "I didn't expect that the old classmate who used to have a, 'I'll take care of you' attitude towards others to become so human now. Is there anything that better fits the image of me and you in real life?" Guan Chen thought, according to what Xing Yan said in the first lesson, if there are commonalities between the characters and reality, or emotional connections, it should be easier and more convincing to act out. Guan Chen touched his chin and felt that he had absorbed knowledge quite well. It seemed that as long as he was willing to calm down and study, he could still learn. "Reading makes me sleep instantly, and it is indeed due to insufficient sugar intake. I found it." Little Bear exclaimed in surprise, "These two characters are perfect for both of us." Guan Chen leaned over to look with satisfaction. The female protagonist is an optimistic and naive silly girl who came from the countryside to live in a big city and made a lot of jokes. But she gradually got to know some good people, eventually found love, and prepared to get married. And the scene chosen by Little Bear is before getting married, the female protagonist returns to the countryside and invites her biological brother to attend the wedding. The protagonist's biological brother, who is the character that Guan Chen will play. Her brother is a scientist with extremely high intelligence, but extremely low emotional intelligence. He looks down on ordinary people around him, has a strange personality, and is unhappy with everything he does, often making people around him unable to bear it. "I lost it." Guan Chen almost threw his phone out. "Where does this fit?" Guan Chen suddenly reacted and said to Xiaoxiong, "I want to match you." However, Xiaoxiong didn't know that his old classmate had changed the software, so he naturally found a character that matched his predecessor. "You have a high IQ, but your emotional intelligence is not very good. You often speak almost to the point of making people angry. For 3 whole years in high school, you have been alone." Little Bear looked at Guan Chen with a bright expression and said, "It fits you very well, doesn't it?" Yes, Guan Chen said with a smile on his face, I suddenly want to challenge myself. Take a look and see if there are any characters like perverted criminals. Where are the perverted criminals from comedy movies? Little Bear laughed heartily. Guan Chen wants to persuade Little Bear whether or not to look again. You have watched a lot more movies than me. Do you have any additional characters from other movies to add? If not, let's choose this one. Little Bear pointed to the movie with a silly female lead and a strange brother. There is no supplement. Guan Chen has never seen a movie from this world, let alone a comedy, so he can't even say a single one. Then let's do this. Little Bear looked at his phone happily and was very satisfied. I made a great choice. Now you and I can both shine. Yeah, yes. Guan Chen saw that he couldn't avoid this assignment anymore, so he could only search for any matching characters in his memory database based on his persona. Low emotional intelligence, eccentric personality, and not happy with anything, that must be mindless and not high. Pop. Guan Chen lightly slapped himself, making him think more seriously. There are two ways to make a high IQ but low emotional intelligence quirk appeal to the audience. A type that has some flaws in itself, touches the local atmosphere, gets closer to the audience, is not so aloof, and thus gains the audience's understanding and another level of superiority. Another approach is to become so powerful that it resembles a god, making the audience admire and naturally assuming that such people can be accepted even if they look down upon ordinary people. Guan Chen held his lines and compared them to his memory bank, pondering and finally came up with two. I've decided it's you guys. Let's go over the lines and try the effect briefly. Guan Chen broke up his already messy long hair, making it even more messy. Guan Chen also got up to get a can of beer and opened it with a growl. Why did you suddenly drink? Little Bear asked him in surprise, you're playing the role of a scientist. Why can't scientists drink alcohol while conducting experiments? Guan Chen took a few sips of alcohol and let out a long, lazy hiccup in his eyes. Morality, law, and ethics are fabricated by a group of lower-class people to constrain a very small number of geniuses. The drinking scientist mentioned at the end of the article comes from the animated series Rick and Morty. Minors, please watch this animation with your parents accompanying you. Also, thank you to the leader of Xiaoyi at Yitian. End of this chapter.